to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forum.
And this is Parker, go by Tweak on forums.
This is Jeremy, no forums.
No forum.
Nope.
Doesn't believe
Alrighty. So, doesn't believe in the forums. Like, he doesn't believe in using them, or he doesn't believe they exist.
It's the inner tubes. I
them.
don't.
They're the
Okay.
they're his
like-
ROUSs. They don't exist.
Yeah. I thought it was just RUSs.
Oh yeah, why did I say ROUS?
I think
No,
it's just
yeah, I thought it
RUSs.
Oh, I thought it was
Rodents of
unusual
unusual size.
ROUS.
Yeah, but
USs.
there's no, you don't make a letter for in the acronym for the O for of.
It makes sense.
I'm pretty sure it's just RUS.
Oh my god, nerds are freaking the fuck out right now.
Here,
You have
let's
no
just do
idea,
this.
dude. People are crashing their fucking cars.
R.U.S. Search Google.
Wrong. It's the ROUSs.
Nope. Slavic words. That's not what I wanted.
Oh my god.
Rus.
You're gonna have to edit this. This is gonna make too many people mad.
I'm interested now.
Just furious.
Oh, dude.
All right, and so if you add rodents, now we get no. It is ROUS.
Hey,
Nice.
Yeah.
look at me.
I didn't need confirmation. I knew. Just so the fellow nerds
Interesting.
understand that you were the one who was incorrect.
Well, I've been saying it wrong my whole life then because
Okay. It's okay to be
we
wrong.
had referenced it. We had been referencing it in like leagues and stuff we did. There was a league at Battlezone where there was an event called RUSs, and rodents of unusual size would come out of the forest and attack you. So
They're not the same.
we've been apparently doing it wrong for a long time, and nobody ever said anything. That's interesting. All right. So today we have a little bit of stuff to talk about. It's probably going to be one of our shorter episodes, unless you include the pre-ramble that I put at the end, which is all the dumb stuff we talk about before we start podcasting. But that's going to take us into the news.
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 All right, so we actually finally got some news. Huzzah! Yay. News. It's all about the Inhumans today, a lot of Inhuman stuff. But before we get there, there was a little brief mention, honorable mention for updated faction list. Angela's been on it for, God, what is like 7 or 8 years she's been on there, but we finally found out.
16.5 years.
Yeah, something like that. But we finally found out where Enchantress goes. She's in Asgard and Cabal, which was our call. We thought that's where she belonged, but now we know for sure. Guys, did anybody already break that code? Anybody already decide, well, this is how you break her because she's in Cabal?
Enchantress?
Yep.
No. I mean, I guess you have the option of your 3 Mind Stone characters. You can choose between MODOK, Loki, and Enchantress. One of these things is not like the others, but go ahead.
Yeah. So we found that out. And then Medusa got her panel to play, which is really ambiguous. It's just not ambiguous, just short. We found out that she has Flurry on her strike with 5 dice. Apparently it's not auto flurry, it's conditional. She's got the same defensive ability as Angela's Living Ribbons, which is you can't modify or change dice when you attack her, and you can't put templates over her when you're moving around her or through her. And that's it. They said they like had a whole paragraph that said she also does some amazing things as Queen of the Inhumans. It's really amazing, and I think you'll really like it. But we're not going to tell you. Bye-bye.
Well,
It's kind of weird.
It's probably just saying that she's also going to be a leader, like the last couple
Right.
factions have had 2 leaders.
Right.
Which means that they're going to have more characters.
Right. In the comics, I do not have a lot of Inhumans in the comics, but all the ones I do have, she is like the queen of them. In the primary Marvel universe, she's been the queen and basically the only leader of the Inhumans for, gosh, it's got to be like years now since Black Bolt, went nuts. So we also got some Inhuman cards, some tactics cards. We have Terra Genesis, named after the process by which you become an Inhuman. If you have that special Kree gene that was put in millions of years ago, you can use the Terrigen Mist. And the way it works is any Inhuman character can pay 3 to target an opponent within range 3 if they have a civilian token. The civilian immediately transforms like an Inhuman. You roll 4 dice, dealing 1 damage to the target character for each critical, wild, or hit. So basically, you roll 4 dice and do damage like you're rolling an attack. If it dazes or KOs the target, you also score 2 victory points. So we have another victory point card in the game.
Why are civilians so hateful?
Yeah.
They're so hateful in this game.
Is the Terrigenesis do damage like an attack? I thought it was like Counter-Strike, where it's just crits and wilds. Is it like an attack?
Well, it is. It's not an attack roll. It just says you do 1 damage for each critical, wild, or hit. So those are the dice you normally do damage on. But so it's critical, wild, or hit. So it looks like an attack roll, but you can't modify it.
Wow, that's crazy. That's doing like a lot more damage than I thought it was. I thought it was just Counter-Strike. I guess I skimmed it and missed the hit part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they don't defend against it, right?
Nope. You just take a damage.
That's really annoying.
Just punch you right in the face.
Yeah.
I
mean, damage ignoring defenses is a really big thing.
Mm-hmm. Also...
Okay, well, that card's going to be obviously amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Terrigenesis, I think, is super strong. It costs 3 power in the Inhumans, and we don't know if the Inhumans have a power generator right now, so it might be something they have to do a little bit later in the game or after they do a strong strike attack. But they can do it from range 3, and it'll really help against your scenario things. Like looking at you, Web Warriors, it'd be really nice to just be like, oh, your Web Warrior got dinged once? Well, now they're just dead. I take 2 VPs and you drop the civilian, moving on. Pretty cool. The fact that you also get 2 VPs for it is pretty awesome if you actually down the character. So, pretty darn nice. The Bitter Rivals is their next card. 3 power, and any power...
Just real quick.
Go ahead. What?
The wording on this is very confusing, and so take your time. Like, I had to read this like 5 times.
Yeah, okay. So, 3 power. Any character who plays this tactic can choose an enemy character within range 3. Until the end of the round, other enemies within range 3 of that one you targeted roll 1 fewer die on attack and defense rolls. So picture it kind of like a targeted bubble debuff. So you point to somebody, if within every one of their friendlies, so your enemy team members, they're close to that target you picked, anybody inside that bubble takes a 1 die debuff on attack and defense for a whole round. So really nice to do early on the central central character, or maybe a character who needs to be within range 3 of other characters to do stuff.
Captain America,
Wong maybe, since he has to get a little closer to things. So like, pretty cool thing to put on the supports and protectors out there that are buffing your other characters by being close to them. Really interesting.
Bodyguard characters are funny. Get away from me.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is another great option because of all of his range 3 buffs and heals.
Yeah.
Not to mention characters that manipulate their dice and are heavily quality dice, reducing their number is obviously really effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, characters that roll a whole bunch of dice, or teams that roll lots and lots of dice, less effective. But I think, what do you guys think? Is this worth 3 power? Do you feel like it's going to get 3 power back?
Yeah, 100%.
I think it'll be interesting. I feel like in this game, I can see some games, like if your opponent's playing like a mission E, the deployment E, and they're trying to just run at you with 4 characters plus, and they're just trying to run down your throat, then Bitter Rivals is just like absolutely crushing to them. But if you're playing like a wide spread out scenario, and you got 1 person on each point, and everybody's way spread out, maybe you're tagging 2 characters with this, maybe.
I think we should talk about this after we do the last card.
Okay.
But I see where you're going with that, and I think that this is still a very useful card.
Yeah. Last one, in Inhuman Royal Family, any Inhuman character on the team can spend 2 power. If you spend power, so multiple Inhuman characters could do it at the same time, anybody who spent power can re-roll any number of dice in 1 attack or defense roll during that round. Inhuman Royal Family.
God.
during that round. So it's just one attack or defense roll, which is kind of interesting because from what we know about the Inhumans' passive ability, they already get to reroll 1 dice. So basically, this lets you roll the rest of them any one time. Or I guess would the wording be you get to do all of them and then a reroll a single dice? Is that how it would work? You get to do both, I'm guessing?
You choose the order in which you modify your dice.
Yeah. So you
would get to do both. You would get to do the 1 reroll and then reroll all of them, or reroll all of them and then do the 1 reroll. Yeah. Assuming that they all have that.
It seems phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Like, that card seems really, really good.
Okay, so I agree. Obviously, rerolls are powerful in this game. Anyone who disagrees is wrong. So I think that this is actually very concerning. I feel like all 3 of these cards are better than all of the X-Men cards combined. Like, any one of these 3 is better than the X-Men cards in total.
You know what's funny? You say that, and just playing X-Men yesterday, none of the tactics cards
you don't need any other cards.
Yeah, none of the cards I played.
First class is their best, and it's okay.
I did not play any of them. Oof. Yeah, and all those cards that you just talked about are amazing.
First class is useful.
Yeah, sure.
It's Children of Adam is nice, but they're both just like,
they're fine.
It's just okay, and they tend to not trigger very often. So they end up burning up a lot of roster slots. So I think after you've played them a few times, you end up taking the cards out, which is kind of sad because basically all X-Men have turned into, for our meta at least, is Storm the faction. Is how can you abuse Storm's leadership with other models, and it's just been really boring. And so obviously we don't have the whole faction yet. And who knows, maybe the next wave of X-Men will bring more tactics cards that will make your roster choices more interesting. But yeah, basically all we've been doing with X-Men is taking character-specific cards like Exceptional Healing and then generics like, Recal and stuff.
There is a 4th card, though. There is a 4th card.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the 4th, it's kind of weird because if you look at the panel to play, anybody who read the article, there's a graphic at the bottom that shows you 3 of the cards, but then a 4th card was also spoiled in the article itself. So if you just looked at the cards, you may have missed this. But
that's why I told you to read it.
Yeah, the last one, I say this because I may or may not have actually done that exact thing. So the last one's called Attilan Rising. Attilan being the home of the Inhumans. It's been in a couple different places in the Marvel Universe, and it's ebbs and flows, right? And so this was obviously, it is waxing because according to this tactical card, any Inhuman can play it if they are injured, giving 1 power to each Inhuman character for each allied injured Inhuman. So if you have multiple players injured, then you will get multiple power on each Inhuman. So giving a huge power boost, potentially.
Hypothetically, 4-character roster, 3 of your characters are injured. Each of the 3 injured get 3 power, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For free. It just happens.
Yeah. Cost 0, obviously. All the power gaining cards are, unless you're moving power, is free.
Right, but it also doesn't cost health or something like that. It doesn't cost some other resource.
So I think Black Bolt was an example, but I think we just assumed that he was the way he was so that he was more balanced, because obviously you can't have his ridiculous attack on the front side, right? But maybe all the Inhumans are going to have massive injured sides, and this is like a balancing factor for them so that they'll be very weak in scenario. And so maybe that's why their scenario card removes one of the tokens, right? It's like I run up and I damage you for I punish you for trying to win on scenario. And maybe that's because their faction is bad at scenario play because they have very small, healthy health pools and they've got deep injured sides.
That's possible.
It doesn't take away...
It doesn't get rid of the token, but you're trying to stop them from scoring, right?
Yeah.
Your whole point is to kill the person holding the thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge comeback card and damage card. It's a monster good card all rolled into one.
Their stuff sounds really good.
The fact that Attilan Rising doesn't have a range either is super good. Just like the whole board, just whoop.
Yeah, it's global. Jeremy, what did you say?
Their stuff sounds really good, which is sad to me because I don't want to play them at all. Again, I don't like their models. I don't like their storyline. I don't like anything about them.
My initial impression was power creep, and that made me really nervous at first. But now that I'm seeing the trend of like, our people are going to be injured, and then like we're trying to stop you from scoring points, I'm starting to see that maybe it's kind of a design aspect that like they pay for their strength in different ways. Because I think we've already seen that they don't necessarily generate extra power. It's that they can move power around with the King of the Inhumans ability. And so maybe Medusa will have a different leadership, which is what it sounds like from the article. But that's obviously a really bad leadership ability. But they have a lot of rerolls, and they've shown that they have good stats. So rerolls plus good stats obviously seem strong, but if their whole faction's going to be injured on turn 3, then that's not as good. Because, you're literally surrendering scenario on turn 3 if that's true.
Well, a different style of play would be good. That's fine. I think that's cool.
No, and that looks really good. Now, obviously, even if I see the cards, I'm going to withhold judgment until we get some games in. But, She-Hulk followed by Inhumans would be very aggravating if we were worried about power creep. If we weren't like, well, if you look at it from the glasses of Hulk is terrible, and then She-Hulk is balanced, and then Inhumans are just different, then it doesn't look as bad. So, yeah, I think we're probably fine. I was just a little nervous. Parker, do we have any other news to talk about?
No, that was pretty much the mine this time. That was about it. I say that about it, but it was a lot of news, a lot of things.
Is especially compared to this off season we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, remember how we were like, man, there's way too much stuff coming out. We're so behind. And then, that 8 weeks felt like a year.
Yeah.
It felt like so long between releases. I was like, how have we not had anything? It's been so long. And it was a really small release, too. It was 2 boxes instead of 3. And it was like, oh, man, it's brutal. All right, so moving on. Currently playing. I have been currently playing. I built... Well, I guess first off, I've been playing the list we built in our last episode, the Wakandan Web Warriors team. It's been very good, kind of as expected, and it's nothing really special to report. It's working as intended. It's pretty much rolls over you unless you have a very strong anti-control game. Or what was the game I lost, Jeremy? I can't remember.
The one you lost?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I remember I got pretty well rolled over in one of the games. I couldn't even stay in it. I can't remember what happened, though. It's been too long. I'm pretty sure we recorded it. So it should be on a battle report currently posted on our YouTube channel.
Oh, that was
too late now.
Yeah, no, that was the X-Men game that we learned about X-Men. Remember? I was playing...
That was the Storm game.
Yeah, Storm blew you up.
Well, I mean, I lost on attrition, but it was just surprising... trying to remember if there's anything specific in that game. I remember a lot of really unfortunate coincidence timing things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing the evacuation mission, which first off isn't super great against high power gainers. And then we were doing... Oh, and then there was we were playing MODOK. Yeah, I remember now. So MODOK had a piece of terrain, so Shuri couldn't push him off very easily. And then, yeah, you started evacuating all the people because... you were blowing me up on attacks, and so you were getting to evacuate people on Taskmaster, and I couldn't stay in it, and I couldn't score enough points to stay ahead of you. There was that one turn where I think you dazed 4 of my 5, and so I was ahead of you 12-6 or 7, and then I was behind 13-6 and or 13-12, and it was no recovering. It was really bad. I knew I was going to lose some point gain, but I didn't think it'd be that bad. So recently I played X-Men with Storm, but I was trying to do stay mostly X-Men and not do Taskmaster and stuff. So I did Beast, Wolverine, Storm, Corvus Glaive with Duality Stone, and Proxima, and I really liked it. It had a lot of synergy in it. The Proxima and Corvus module slides very well into the Storm list because... cover and the ability to move around more, because Corvus's only problem is mobility, and he gets a little bit of it through his Death Blow, and he gets some more with Mothership, but obviously playing an X-Men you don't have access to Mothership. But getting to go with Proxima can move and spear throw somebody and stand where she is not placed, and then Corvus gets to go hop over her and attack somebody, and then they start doing this constantly moving around thing. And so you can actually attack with Corvus and then place behind Proxima to gain cover again, because you're too far away. And then cover plus his damage reduction plus the Reality Stone means he basically blocks 3 at range. It's almost impossible to take him out at range. It's really interesting. And so Corvus ends up living the entire game, which is obviously really bad for your opponent. Jeremy, have you played anything new that you're really excited about?
Well, my list I've been playing is a what if list, and it's what if Taskmaster ran around with his friend Storm, and became an X-Men because he's my favorite X-Men.
Yeah.
Uh,
Taskmaster, the best
So-
X-Man.
best X-Man.
His mutant ability to do tasks.
Yeah, so I played X-Men. I played that version of it so I could jam in Ghost Rider. And I tell you, it was a lot of fun. It was a really, really fun list.
Yeah.
Resurrecting Ghost Rider, activating twice, and that stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
Moving
nothing
on to-
that interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to hobby projects, we're all working on She-Hulk Storm and She-Hulk Enchantress and Angela. I said that wrong. So obviously we're all still working on those guys. Moving on to a segment we don't do very often, From the Forums.
Forums.
Today
Boo.
with From the Forums.
Blech. Ugh.
Basically, we're just going to bring you some of the need-to-know clarifications and judgments that have happened on the rules forum, because people like Jeremy that are allergic to the internet and computers in general don't sometimes get caught up on this stuff.
I have HBO.
This is probably going to annoy the hell out of you guys, because it annoyed the hell out of me, but interactions with the new Grievous Wounds card. So timing, obviously, you get to apply the Grievous Wounds if your attack dazes them, because normally when a character gets dazed, they can't be affected by special rules, but the card says if the attack dealt damage, so it actually triggers during the attack while they're still not dazed. So yes, if you daze someone with the Grievous Wounds attacks, they're still Grievous Wounds, which is pretty obvious from intent, but is technically questionable due to timing. Field dressing. Yes, you can field dressing a model with Grievous Wounds. How do you guys feel about this?
Wait, what?
You can play field dressing on a model that is grievously wounded and dazed.
The wording.
How does that make you feel, Parker?
What's the
Are
point?
you immediately upset?
I'm immediately
upset?
very angry.
All right, now I'm going to continue reading the ruling. However, you will not remove any damage from the character.
Oh.
Now, there's actually an interaction here. This is important to know. So it's not just, no, you can't field dressing grievous wounded people. It actually kind of matters, but not really. So if you play field dressing or on a grievously wounded dazed model, you remove the dazed token, and the model still has the total damage on it. Then the game rechecks for dazed, and they become dazed again. So if you have an effect that triggers on an ally being dazed, for any reason...
Oh shit, Ronan?
It triggers. I haven't read Ronan yet, but he is an example of sometime that might matter. Also, maybe Punisher. Punisher getting another judgment token. If you're like, or a punishment token. If you absolutely have to have another punishment token, and the wording doesn't say by an enemy effect, you might consider doing that. So it's just a little interaction. It's not really why we're covering this today. It was just a little something thrown in there. The next part. Age of Ultron and Deal with the Devil with Grievous Wounds.
Holy shit.
Are you guys ready for a ride?
Okay.
I'll just shortcut this. Effectively, yes, you can play both of these cards and they work. Because both of them say when they are KO'd. And so, the model is actually KO'd. All effects, period, the word effects, period, are removed from the characters, right? Including
Right.
Grievous Wounds. Then, the model comes back and you continue the game as normal.
That makes sense.
So the cards resolve normally. Now the next section, Hela, Queen of Hell. Hela will be KO'd. The Hela, Queen of Hell power happens instead of being KO'd. So she is still KO'd and dies. Cannot be saved by her own power.
Oh no.
Nail in the coffin, right?
So sad.
So Hela,
And of like
so-
all of these that should work, and you're like, Hela's ability doesn't work, but Age of Ultron does, like, that's dumb. And I understand, I'm not going to argue the wording. The wording is obviously written in a way that this is how it works. But the implications and, like, the intent behind it, it's like, you can't tell me that when they were originally writing the cards that they wanted Age of Ultron to live through Grievous Wounds, and they didn't want Hela to live through Grievous Wounds. Like,
Yeah,
that
that's
doesn't
interesting.
make sense, right?
That's interesting. Maybe there's
I
just kind
wonder
of like
if it'll eventually be errated. But
maybe it's just like the cost of putting a tactics card. You don't want one tactics card to totally invalidate a different tactics card. Maybe that's the logic there.
Yeah, but then field dressing wouldn't work like that. I mean, it shuts field dressing off, and that fucking thing's expensive and kind of...
That's true. That's true. Good example. Yep.
Yeah. I just think Hella got boned.
It doesn't make any sense that... It's just another example of, like, why wouldn't you play, like, the new character instead of the old character? Like if Hella was supposed to be, like, similar to, like, what's his name? Ghost Rider. I'm forgetting his name. Even though he's more expensive, like, he's just obviously better, right? He's the control-y, fighty, mysticky guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's faster than Hella, he hits harder than Hella, he's way tankier than Hella, and nothing gets through his bullshit, where Hella has multiple things that screw her over. And it's just like one of these rules has not aged well, and it's just really sad, because I want to see Hella on the table, and she just, like, the more things happen, the more she fades away, it seems like.
Huh.
Yeah, the only thing she has left is she's 4 points, and she's very quick. Being a medium move on a medium base is still fast. I mean,
yeah, because Ghost Rider's not quick on a
no, but he's 5
base.
points. But he's 5 points. I'm saying.
Sure.
There's a difference.
So the argument is she's cheap. That's the argument then.
Yeah,
because
she's
she's not
cheaper.
faster.
She's cheaper.
She's noticeably slower.
But she's...
Okay. She's
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yes.
No one's
she's
going to argue she's not cheaper, but no one's also going to argue that she's as good as Ghost Rider.
correct.
So, yeah. Okay. So that was our first from the forums today. Our next from the forums is hit and run timings. This is pretty minor. Basically, the question was asked, hit and run attack or superpower played by Cyclops, and you attack someone like Venom or Sabretooth, do they get to respond to the attack before you move away? The answer is yes, because the move action is not something that occurs after the attack is resolved. It happens after the attack action is resolved. And so you resolve effects that trigger after the attack is resolved before completing the rest of the actions.
Whoa, what? I'm a little... That was so many... Just give it to me in a skinny.
Okay, so when you use hit and run or charge or some ability like that, there is an opportunity between the two actions to do things that happen in response to those two actions. So if you pay 2 for charge and you move up to Rocket, he can booby track you before you attack. If you hit and run and attack Venom, he can punch you back before you move away. Got it?
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was explaining the rules interaction, which I guess you didn't really want to hear, but that's why it happens. But the fact is that it does happen. That's the important
Well, it's not that I didn't want to hear it. It's just that a lot of those words were very similar, and I was just having a hard time
no,
tracking.
I get that. Yeah. The key is that it's basically the specific wording of after the attack is resolved is what allows it to go before, because it specifically says on the timing chart that things that say after the attack is resolved trigger at this moment. And the move after attacking does not say that.
So, Parker,
Right, so moving on.
So I was going to say that whole concept right there, we ran into that really hard when I was playing that crazy list with everything responding to everything.
Right.
And you brought Sabretooth in and tried to fuck with me. And there was about 4 things that happened all at the same time. It was insane.
All right, Parker, what happens when Sabretooth punches Sabretooth? Explain. Just say what happens in what order.
I
can tell you if you don't know. Okay, go ahead.
First, I think a very small singularity opens up directly between the two models.
Not correct.
And both Sabretooths
False.
simultaneously fall into
Fake
it.
news. Nope. Jeremy will remember this from early Mark I War Machine, when there was a flow chart for how to resolve your unit attacking another unit.
Jesus.
There's a 14-step process for how to resolve what happens when a Bane Knight attacks a Legionnaire with an Incubi host.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
It was so terrible.
Who gets a soul win?
It was basically... Yeah, it was basically whose army dies first in the middle of this single model's attack action. Because, anyway, we'll move past it. That's going to be too much to go into. But, so, the order of effects that happen are Sabretooth attacks enemy Sabretooth. Enemy Sabretooth triggers Untamed Force and attempts to attack friendly Sabretooth. Friendly Venom plays Lethal Protector, bodyguarding the enemy Sabretooth's attack. triggering so many snacks. So many snacks triggers. You attack enemy Sabretooth. Whose turn is it? That's what happened.
Dude, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. I actually did it intentionally planning to play Lethal Protector, and Jeremy didn't notice it. It was great. So anyway, moving on to our next from the forums. Enchantress rule. Let me check the name of it. It's Amora's Kiss. Are you guys familiar with this one? She just came out, so
That's the one that
it's her
lets
ability
you
to steal an objective token from
take
somebody.
objectives. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting clarification. Yes, Enchantress can steal the enemy Wakandan herb that you normally can't pick up.
Oh my god.
Because you can't use the interact action to pick it up, but you can use a superpower to take an objective from an opponent. So, balls. So, another reason to never play that garbage mission. Fun times, right? All right, so we're moving on to our next from the forums. This one is actually one I've been wanting an answer to for a long time. I've just been lazy and not asked it myself. So I'm really glad someone posted this. So the question is, let's think of a way I can explain the situation to somebody and have it make sense audibly. So let's say there's a character standing on top of a car, right? And hypothetically, there's a perfect circle of characters standing right next to that car all the way around, right? They're not quite touching the car, they're just right next to it. So a model couldn't fit between the car and all these models, right? It's impossible for them to fit there. And there's no gap all the way around. Just picture that in your brain.
Okay.
So, car, enemy model on top, unnamed model circling it. Thor uses strongest one there is to throw the model on top of the car. What happens? There's nowhere for them to place off the car, and they can't place half on the car and half not on the car. So if they were to continue off the car, they would collide with one of the other models, but they can't stand there because they have to be completely on the train or not completely on the train. And so basically what happens? The answer is the collision still happens, and the model backtracks to back on top of the car along the path it was thrown. So basically what will happen is you'll continue in a straight line the direction you're thrown until you contact an enemy model, at which point the collision is triggered. The collision will then be resolved. Then when the model is not legally standing, you back it up until it's back in a legal position, the shortest distance you could possibly move to be in a legal position along the path you moved. Then you resolve the collision. So the answer is both things happen. You get the throw damage, and the model is still standing on top of the car, not in contact with the enemy model. It's kind of weird, but that's kind of what I was hoping it would be, because that made the most sense intuitively, I think. Because one thing can't happen and the other thing might happen, so I'm glad you get the impact.
But
anyway, I know that's kind of boring if you already knew that stuff, but
I was hoping for the singularity, just because that's much more amazing.
very, very small wormhole.
Very small. Yeah.
Both models are sucked in. Man, then your Magneto model can close the singularity, and that's it. The end.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Makes it like all right, so that's going to bring us into our air quotes main topic today, which is a pretty small topic. This probably won't take us very long. We mainly wanted to talk about, because we've been building a lot of not affiliated lists lately. Is it overrated to play affiliated lists? Is it maybe okay sometimes to play outside of affiliations, or have a plan for unaffiliated lists within your roster?
I'll start with
Jeremy,
something that I
obviously
go.
Oh, okay. Well, now that Parker's ready to talk, because it was his time to talk and he chose not to, but I guess we'll do it now. Go ahead.
Thank you for yielding the floor. The one thing I feel like that kept me from doing this for a long time was just how deep the game was, specifically in tactics cards, because a lot of the tactics cards that you could play outside of the team tactics cards seemed so much weaker by comparison, with the example of a few outliers that always seem to make it. So this, now that we have some really strong tactics cards being attached to multiple characters that are also really strong, and the tactics cards just seem to be extremely interesting tactics-wise or multipliers, then basically you your list is now not like several characters that enable you to play a strong tactics card. It's just one character, like a faction unto themselves, playing their one awesome tactics cards. So you're now able to, supplement the great models on the board that you wanted with, the tactics options now, which is something we did that didn't really exist earlier in the game.
Cool. So basically, Parker likes playing unaffiliated tactics cards.
I do. Yeah. Oftentimes I will be cutting a lot of team tactics cards, like a lot of them, just so I can put in their individual ones, because the individual ones seem so much stronger.
Just for clarity, in case anyone at home is confused, I think we all know what he's talking about, but all of the tactics cards are team tactics cards. You mean the unaffiliated tactics cards and the affiliated tactics cards.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. I'm just making sure everybody's on the same page. I think most people knew what you're talking about, but I just wanted to clarify.
True.
Jeremy, what do you want to go with your thoughts on unaffiliated lists?
Sure. As for should you do it, should you not do it, is it good, bad, ugly, whatever, sitting here thinking about it, I'm thinking about what we looked up on the rules forum earlier with a quote from Will Pagani. The answer is maybe. The answer is maybe.
Strong maybe.
Strong maybe. There's
Next
just
immediately.
Yeah. Good Lord. So there's just so many strong affiliated tactics cards that are just like game exploders. Like Wakanda Forever. Like everybody attacks again. That's crazy. Avengers.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to move for 1 power. Like there's so many really good ones. But then again, there's some that are not so great. Some of the faction abilities are not so great. So is it better to simply say, I'm going to put these excellent cards for these excellent 5 or 4 point characters and really get every bit of juice out of this? And is that better or the equivalent? Will that win you a game? God, and I don't know, but I can tell you it's a lot of fun. Because I've played a bunch of them now, trying to see what you can do. And when you get a bunch of guys running around who really don't care, they don't care to be within 3. They don't give a shit about any special things. They're not worried about getting things cheaper because they already got awesome cards and they already produce power because they're awesome. So maybe, I mean, I certainly haven't played it enough to have a definitive answer, but it's really a lot of fun. That's kind of the answer I have for now.
Yeah. I think we've been kind of spitballing stuff at the shop, and since we've been talking about list building lately, I think it's something you might look at. Like, obviously most rosters won't have something like this, but you should probably look, and if you're playing a very thin margin on affiliated characters, kind of like Jeremy was talking about with his X-Men list, he's basically got Beast, Storm, maybe Wolverine, and then Taskmaster's basically his affiliateds, and then like 6 more unaffiliated people. And so his goal is basically to already jam as many unaffiliated in there as possible, because he's trying to abuse the faction ability on other characters. And so sometimes when you're doing that, those characters don't necessarily synergize with each other, they synergize with the affiliation. But if you look at it and you're like, well, so I basically have 6 to 8 characters in here that don't really give a shit about my affiliation. Maybe I want to look and see if maybe they just work well together on their own. Because when we did the Bash Bros list, which is like the Storm plus big dudes, it started out as, what if we just put all the big guys in one list and just said screw the affiliation? And then at the end we were like, well, we could just put like Storm and Taskmaster in here and it's affiliated. And you're like, well, that's not so bad, because Beast might already be in the list, so you only need 3 out of 5. And so you can basically at the table decide if you're going to play unaffiliated. I don't think going to the table with no way to play affiliated lists is a good idea. But if you have like the option to make it close, then maybe that's better. It's like if you probably wouldn't want to squeeze in like Doctor Strange, who's not only expensive but going to take out multiple roster spots with his stones and himself. That's probably not a great idea. But someone easy like Miles, like if you're like, well, I was already playing Ghost Spider because she's a great support character and she's fast, well, squeezing in Miles and Taskmaster or Miles and Bucky isn't really that hard either. So maybe look at something like that. So maybe do like a hybrid of like, well, sometimes I'm going to play unaffiliated. Like sometimes at 17 points, I just want to play Strange, Magneto, and MODOK and just do what I want and not worry about other things. Because like I have enough power generation, I have enough defense, I have enough mobility. Like I just want to like do the characters I want to do. So maybe the affiliation isn't so important.
I think you have to look at the missions. I think it depends on what, like, if you roll priority, obviously you get to decide. You decide, like, okay, I want to play huge points, so I'm going to play this 20, and that's the point of it. But then they may not play Gamma. They may not play in the center of the table like you want. So if they say 20 and then they play one that goes wide on you, you may not want to play the big guys. You may want to go affiliated so you can drop a couple extra dudes in there and get some synergy going because you're going to need help. But what I find is if they play in the middle of the table and they play enough points, 18 plus, you've got a game against it. That's what I've seen thus far in the few games I've done.
Nice. So Parker, do you have any theories that you've tried? Would you try your Griefer list out of affiliation, or would you always try and slam it into an affiliation regardless?
The one thing that affiliation does for me whenever I'm trying to build a list is it usually frees up not just the points for the leader character that gives you the list, but the other two characters you have to bring along with it, right? Like it's usually it's freeing up somewhere between like 10 to 14, points to let you, create your full, gamut, whatever style you're trying to push. So in like a Griefer list where I'm trying to do a lot of reactions constantly, I dreamed of the ability to not have to play, Cap, Hawkeye, and Black Widow to get the great, to get the awesome efficiency out of the Avengers power. And so the ability to play stronger characters in the place of those three, you have to decide, okay, is playing stronger characters in the place of those three a better choice than having my other abilities run more efficiently? And the reason why I usually put my Griefer list in Guardians is only to just cut down on that cost, because one of my griefing characters that I love, Ronan, is in Guardians, but Guardians doesn't do a lot to help that list. So taking it out could be, the right way to play. In fact, it likely is. I think if you were trying to build a list around a kind of theme, or you want, maybe it's high action efficiency, or maybe it's, you want to be reacting to your opponent all the time, or you want to be manipulating other people's points, like victory points, and you want all those abilities like in one spot. I think you just have to look at how many points do you need to devote to that to actually make it impossible for your opponent to play around. And if that is like 12 or more, if that's basically like 9 or more, you're probably better off going unaffiliated, because fitting in those points otherwise is going to be really difficult to do in every game. So I think it's all about like which models are you choosing, or you're kind of collecting together to do whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with your game, and then you look at, okay, can I put them into the any list with an affiliation and get it to happen? And I guess in this way, it's not affiliation first; it's model first, or theme first.
Yeah.
So
like when I was building the X-Men list that was kind of inspired by John's list, where it was basically Cyclops as the leader, and you need a power battery like Red Skull or Vision or Wong to hand out power to your quality attackers. We were trying to find a way to get like Sabretooth and Vision and Wolverine into one list, and it just wasn't working because the points. Because you're like, I need Vision, I need Venom, I need Sabretooth, I need Wolverine and Cyclops, and it's like, well, I'm already at 20 points, like this isn't working. And so we were always like one character short, we felt like. And so I think basically what kind of born the Bash Bros list was like, let's just get rid of the X-Men junk that isn't worth it. Like we're trying to make up for the lack of efficiency from these base models that was giving us our affiliation bonus, and make up for that with these extremely efficient mercenary type models that were dropping into a subpar efficient list to make up for its failings. What if we just cut the head off the snake and just like had all meat, right? Like what if it was just all the good stuff in the middle? Would we need the power sharing? And that's kind of like what started that thought process. And then obviously Ghost Rider and Ronin are obviously just a great combo to slam into that. And then later on, we played one game that's also a battle report. We play tested the list we built last week, the Web Warriors list, versus a Swarm list where it was basically Guardians of the Galaxy, but in addition to the base like 4 or 5 Guardians you normally play, it was just all the other 2-point models as well. And so at 15 points, you get like 6 characters. It's like silly the amount of people you get to bring, because it's 6 2-pointers. And then, 7. It's 7 characters at 15 points.
But
then you just like slam Star-Lord in on top, and you're like, we played at 18. But can you imagine you have to play Gamma Waves, and your opponent's like, cool, here's my 7 guys, and you're like, what? Like how do you deal with 7 characters? Like it's like, well, you're not affiliated. It's like, I don't need Star-Lord's fucking plucky attitude to get me through this game. I have 7 bros. Like this, we're about to go to Pound Town here. Like, what do you do about it? It's like, I have 3 freaking characters. It's like, I don't care if Magneto toasts 2 of them, because you know what they are? They're body blockers, so you can't throw shit at the rest of my guys. And then everyone just comes over the top, and you're like, oh no. It's like, congrats, you killed Okoye and Wong. I'm so crippled.
Now that they have so many models,
anyway, so
released,
that's what.
Yeah, it's more. It's an interesting topic. Again, I'm still a solid maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting idea to have a dual plan. Kind of like, do you play dual affiliations? Like, well, do you play one affiliation, one unaffiliated? I think we're getting to the point where it's becoming an option, especially with multiple unaffiliated characters now released, because Punisher isn't in an affiliation. And so, like, you're not really expecting anything from your affiliation on Punisher. Like, he's so good on his own just as a drop-in. It's like, well, if you just put a bunch of characters like that into a group, maybe we'll see more unaffiliated characters in the future that don't need help from anybody. Like, they're kind of designed as a complete package on their own. As where a lot of, like, the leaders are missing something. Like, they're meant to get help from their team.
And I think that's, like, the key, right? That's what I kind of said earlier, like, a character that is its own faction. Ghost Rider is a really good example. Like, he is in Defenders, but he doesn't do necessarily anything for Defenders precisely. But he's got all these other things. He's got, like, the ability to help other people when they get attacked. It doesn't mean they don't have to be Defenders. He has the ability to harm your opponent when they're doing crits. He doesn't have to be in Defenders. He comes back from the dead. If you have another character on the board, he can move characters around. Like, he has 2 faction cards himself, and he himself has this cool theme. He's like a little faction. So, like, dropping a bunch, and there are now like 8 characters like that. You could probably pick 8. I think there are 8. There are so many characters like that now. It's easy to do that.
I would even argue that he doesn't even like to be in Defenders. That's a lot of goddamn points. Like, that's so expensive.
Right.
I do think Strange and Ghost Rider is a really strong combo, but it's hard to swallow, like, the 12 points when you're probably taking the Time Stone.
That's huge.
It's like, man, what do you do now? It's like, well, you might as well just put Ronin in, because you're done. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's the list.
Good lord.
And then you're gonna freaking field dressing your dazed Ronin that's grievously wounded and just deal with it.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just
Did
looking
we check
like
that yet? I'm gonna pull Ronin up now.
I'm just kind of looking at the game.
It's gotta say enemy effect, right?
I was just looking at the game right now, just like flipping through characters.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of characters that just kind of, they're just going to do their thing. They don't need a faction. Like, they are kind of their own faction. They have cards. They have cool stuff. Like Ghost Rider, Green Goblin.
Yeah, but so we'll reflect back real quick. If you give up on not taking Avengers, you say, I'm not going to do Avengers. How much power, like, are you just getting rid? Like, you're just like, you know what?
If you're playing a list that could be an Avengers, you should probably be playing Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's the argument.
No.
I think the argument is, if you come up with a cool concept and can't get it to fit into an affiliation, don't stop. Keep going. Maybe you can make up for that by not having to take those semi-required affiliation leaders. It's like, if you're building an Avengers list that really isn't an Avengers list, like Parker was doing, he was trying to get the Ghost Rider Ronin list to fit inside of Avengers, and it doesn't work.
No.
Because by the time you buy Ghost Rider and the Power Stone and Ronin and freaking Captain America, it's like you're out of points. Like you can't get affiliated anymore. It's like you can throw in Black Widow and Taskmaster and try. Like,
Yeah.
so what? Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
18 points. Maybe you squeeze into Avengers. Like, how about you just take Venom and Sabretooth and just say no cap? Like, I'll be okay.
And between Venom has Lethal Protector, Sabretooth has 2 cards that are great.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider has 1 card that's phenomenal and another card that's just fine. And like there's so many characters in the game right now that are going to bring so many fantastic things also into your game. Like there are characters in the game now that you drop in lists because they have that tactics card, because they have that 1 rule listed. So so if you can do that enough times in your kind of mercenary hodgepodge, the potpourri of Marvel Crisis, like it should be really strong. And like you said, Jeremy, it's if you can put it in, sure. That's what I did with the Guardians thing, but yeah.
I just wanted to say, you keep bringing up like the space in the roster. Honestly, I think we're already at the point where people don't play very many affiliation cards. Like, I think the only time they get played is when they're the really good ones, because there's honestly just factions that have good affiliated cards, and there's factions that don't. Like, that's just true. Like, Avengers Assemble is the only Avengers card I think I've seen played in like 6 months. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, you can't compare cards like Anger Management and Second Wind to the affiliation cards being released now. Like, they're not the same. Like, some are like the early game, like, learning stuff and like cool interactions that aren't really gonna see very much table time. And then you see like the Inhuman cards where every one of these is gonna get played. And then even recent releases like the X-Men, it's like, yeah, these are cool, they're unique, they're utility stuff, but like, you don't really need them at all. Like, it's just extra. And like, I think I started seeing everyone taking 3 of the X-Men cards, and now I see at best 1. At best, they take 1. And so I think that's just unfortunately how the game is working. Like, there's the factions, like, I think Criminals take 2 or 3, and I think Inhumans will take 2 or 3, and then Cabal will take 2 or 3. Well, 2, and then you won't see very many affiliates. Maybe 1 in the other ones.
I think things are really going to be changed up when people have to take the one where you don't heal anymore. Like, that's probably going to become kind of an auto include. So what do we get to choose 1 now? We get to choose 1 card?
Yeah. I actually really dislike that. I think it should immediately go on the restricted roster. You should have to choose, because it's just going to be 3 auto includes in every roster. Either that, or they need to expand the amount of tactics slots in a roster. I really actually think that would help the game. If you had 10 tactics slots instead of 8, I think the game would be massively improved. And it obviously, Grievous Wounds slides into 1, so 3 of them are basically your restricted cards. Because if Grievous Wounds doesn't get restricted, it's an auto include in every single list. Because Field Dressing's the best card in the game. The card that counters the best card in the game is then the second best card in the game, in my opinion. I know it doesn't quite work like that, but I'm telling you, it's going to swing games so hard. So those are 3 auto includes. If you have 1 affiliated card auto include, you're choosing 4 cards. Generally, 2 of those go towards character specifics like Lethal Protector or Exceptional Healing. And so now you're basically picking 2 cards. Like, your personal choices are 2, like, realistically. And I just think that's a little sad. You never get to see cards like Marked for Death or Recal, really, because they're so busy taking other stuff. And even if they take it, it doesn't make the actual list for your squad, so it doesn't really matter. When's the last time you saw Heave Ho played in a game, Jeremy?
Well, I played Heave Ho, Thunderclap, and I like those a lot.
Repulsor Blast.
Repulsor Blast. I play that one too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we were playing Disarm and Trip Up in a game recently, and it was actually like, I was like, oh my god, I forgot these were good cards. like, what do you do? Like, the last time I got disarmed was October of 19. Like, I can't even remember.
Oh,
yeah. So
times.
I just wish, like, I think there are a lot of good cards, and I think a pick ban system long term might actually be a good format to break it up a little bit. That way we don't see like the same 8 cards over and over again. Because if you brought like, I don't know, like, let's see, like, basically, like, if is it Battle Arena? I can't remember the name of the freaking format we played on stream. basically the pick ban format in the alternate game modes.
Mhm.
It was actually really fun. We didn't put much prep into it, so it looked like we were noobs because we were. We intentionally didn't practice it so it would be like our first time playing it. And it was a lot of fun, actually. Like, once we actually got to, like, into the picks and bans, it was actually a lot of fun. And so I kind of want to try that again. We just put some more thought into list building. I think there's a lot of strategy in that. And mainly, like, or like the drafting format, like we were talking about in the pre-ramble, being able to draft tactics cards and stuff could be really fun. That way you're not worried about like the same people playing the same stuff over and over again every game. I like to play new stuff. I wouldn't want to play it as a league format because I don't want to be stuck with the same thing for like a month because I like to play different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think unless you guys have something to add on the unaffiliated topic, I think we beat it to death pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Careful, we might become Games Workshop, kicking dead horses.
Oh my! Will money come? Will money come spraying out the backside of it if we keep kicking it?
I mean, I assume.
Like our
But guys, what if Space Hulk comes out again and it's only $400? Anyway. Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
my
we
God.
just priced it at the last eBay price. I don't see the problem. Yeah, okay. Moving on to our next topic, which is a kind of new segment. We've done something similar to this before, but this is going to be the one moving forward. It's called Over and Under. Each of us, in turn, will choose something that we're going to choose category first, and then we'll choose something in that category that we think is overrated, and then once we've all done that, we'll go through and pick something that we each think is underrated in turn. Are you guys ready? Have you picked yours? I'm picked, so if you guys need a moment to think, I can go first.
we're
Are we
doing
doing
characters
characters?
first, right?
Today our topic is characters. So we'll each choose one character we think is overrated and probably gets played too much, and then one character that's underrated and needs to be played more. And then this will come out in the future, and it'll be all different things: tactics cards, crisis cards, affiliations, whatever. I don't think you guys are going to duplicate me, so this is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that Parker's going to be different because he doesn't know how to play the game. I assume Jeremy's just going to choose models I play and or don't play.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go with the hot take on that one.
Ooh, I think my overrated is going to be a super nuclear take.
Oh, good. I think mine will too.
I'm in it for the views.
I'm in it. Oh yeah. That's
Yeah. Alrighty, so who wants to go first? Parker, why don't you go first? I'll go last. So we'll go Parker, Jeremy, me.
All right. Overrated. I'm actually going to go with a really popular 2-point drop in, and this might be a little controversial, but I think Rocket Raccoon's a little overrated. I think
I'm gonna beat you to death.
I think he is. I think
I almost picked him as underrated.
no. I think
Son
he's.
of a
I think he's
bitch.
overrated. I think. I don't like the idea of just dropping him in as your 2-point character. I mean, he is a turret, and he's a really strong turret. I'm not saying he's a weak character, but I do think people's reliance on him in their lists as their 2-point drop in is not okay. I think he belongs in Guardians. I think he belongs in a list where you're trying to like force energy range damage. But I think that's where he belongs. I don't like just dropping him in every
Okay.
list.
I strongly disagree, but that's your opinion. So
It's like your
everyone
opinion,
will
man.
just know that you have bad ones. Jeremy, what do you think about Rocket as an overrated character?
Ooh, as a 2-point drop in, he's 2 points. He always has cover, and he will survive usually almost always one attack, and sometimes he survives 2 attacks for no apparent reason. I think
4.
he's yeah.
Oh my god.
I think he's just right or better than all right. Like always having cover is ridiculous.
I have Hulk smashed Rocket and he didn't die.
Oh
I have Cosmic Blasted him while spending 3 extra power to roll 8 energy dice and he didn't die. I was so mad. All right, so that's Parker's first pick. Jeremy, you're up for overrated.
Overrated. Oh man.
Mhm.
Well, I haven't played this model yet. But she's 5 fucking points. We talked about her a little bit earlier. But fuck Angela. Like I seriously don't see it. She's
What
a
a giant pile of crap.
she's-
She's worthless.
She's a long mover. Her powers, like Heaven's Wrath, is 3. I
Mhm.
I don't know. I think she's stupid, Parker.
Okay. Are you
Overrated.
just trolling him, or you're being honest?
I actually think that she's fine. I actually think she's pretty good. But
people are losing
I
their
can tell
shit.
you, everyone in the world's losing their shit over her. But I think
I can see that.
once they pay the tax of 5 points and also pay for Thor, good luck, man. Okay.
Oh, well, you don't have to pay for Thor.
I think that's where it's
She's in
at, though, and I
Guardians.
think that there's a handful of missions
Oh.
that really they love, and I think she'll do really well.
I
just don't think that she's everything.
I think there's a lot of Guardians players that are really hot and bothered to get her on the table. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think that giving her rerolls and giving her just rerolls, honestly, is all she really needs.
I was gonna say
I
she
will
has so many
say-
fucking dice.
I will say that her spending attack is massively overrated. That attack is not
Yeah.
good. She will very rarely ever use that attack. And so if you actually look at her kit, I don't see how she's going to spend all of her power. Like, she's going to be sitting on 10 power most of the game. Like, because why? Like, unless she gets a god turn off and just gets to keep triggering Assassin or something. Is that even multi-use? Can you use the Angelic Assassin more than once?
no, once per turn.
Yeah, so I don't see how she can spend 4 without using her spending attacks, right? That's her max spend. So
she can also
she
throw.
gets 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she spends 4.
Right.
She generates 2 automatically, and she attacks people. How is she not going to stack up power without taking damage? She's a perpetual energy machine. Like before damage is dealt to her, she has power. No, so if you're using her to play a bunch of tactics cards, that's fine. But like, God, Ronan wish he had power problems like this, right?
My whole point was it's what we already said. Like, she's been hot since the word came out that she was coming out.
Yeah.
And we didn't see this kind of flurry of intensity about Magneto, and Magneto is every bit as good as people thought for 6 points. She's 5 points. I just don't.
Everyone was just standing in a corner sweating, hoping he didn't get nerfed before released.
Yeah.
But that's my hot take, Angela. I think she's overrated.
Yeah. No, okay. Interesting. I didn't expect you to go that direction. That really surprised me. But I see your point. You're definitely more correct than Parker. Parker's off the podcast. Moving on to my overrated model. I think this is going to surprise you guys, although I think I've mentioned it before. Killmonger is overrated. He is taken in way too many lists, and I think he should only be played in some. He has not aged very well. I think he's still a good model, but I think he gets jammed into a lot of lists out of habit. He used to be the gold standard of damage, and he was in basically wave 1. Like, he was in the first thing after the core set launch, basically. And so, obviously, he's been there for so long, and he's like a comfort blanket. I think he's aged out of usefulness because he doesn't have a way to generate extra attacks. He can't throw, he can't push, if I recall. I don't think he even has a push.
Yeah, stagger.
So he has stagger, which is great. He can throw a lot of dice, which is great. He has an energy strike with pierce, which is great. He does good stuff, but he has 2 actions. He can perform 2 attacks. That's the line. If you need to attack multiple people, he's really bad, actually, because he doesn't get his extra dice for attacking the same person twice. And there's actually a lot of times he can't hit the same person twice. Sometimes because that person gets dazed, but he's lackluster for a 4-point melee beater in a lot of situations. Not all, some. I just think it's time to move on from Killmonger and start playing some of the new characters like Wolverine, Sabretooth, Venom. That's my opinion. Even though Venom came out same time as him, but that's my thought. Pick it apart, yell at me.
Yeah, well, to me, I would disagree slightly in that I never thought he was everything. In a few lists, he was okay, but I did hear or see people like go, "Oh, he's like a mini Hulk." No, he's not. And you're absolutely right.
He's way better than Hulk.
He...
They weren't wrong.
Lord.
He is way better than Hulk.
So
Small but fierce.
I mean, for 4 points, I
Tiny.
think he fits there really well. I think he's a 4-point model. He does his one job really well, and he can sometimes earn you a few extra points if you take the card, which is going to get harder now that there's another card that you need to take. Your freaking tactics cards.
How about this? I think Sabretooth is just better than him in a vacuum.
I'm way more scared of Sabretooth than I am of him.
Yeah.
For sure.
I do. If I see Killmonger on a flank, I'm like, okay, I know how this ends. And then if I see Sabretooth, I'm like, damn it, I do not want to do this fight. Because every time I look at what to do, I'm going to be worried. I'm going to trigger aggressive at the wrong time. And he's going to like move out of range of somebody, or he's going to attack me back and roll insane and kill me. So they're both 5-die strikes with Pierce. Obviously, Killmonger's being energy is good in a lot of situations, but he doesn't do auto bleed, which Sabretooth does. He doesn't punch you back. Killmonger has 0 reactions. He's done. You can kill him. It's like as soon as he puts that check mark down, it's like goodbye, Killmonger. You're done. As where Sabretooth not only has a defensive card that will keep him alive through a lot of bullshit, but he heals. He's great in 1v1 fights. How do you beat Sabretooth 1v1? Killmonger can't do it.
No.
Because Sabretooth walks up and punches you, Killmonger punches Sabretooth and dies. Like, what do you do? Like,
Also, you
that's
can't
why I
throw
think he's
Sabretooth
overrated, because
most of the time.
yeah, size 3 hurts you on the throws. Killmonger obviously can't because he can't. Obviously Sabretooth has some downsides, but you know, Killmonger is less versatile, I'll say. He's definitely a better battering ram. Like, he can break through just about any defense, but he can't deal with control as well as Sabretooth can, like getting shot with like pushing attacks off of a point. The counter attacking alone, like the amount of mental effort your opponent will have to spend on how to get around his counter attack and not like worry about getting dazed from his stupid retaliatory strikes. Also, honestly, Sabretooth just hits harder than Killmonger. Killmonger only hits super hard in very select situations. He has to have someone to attack twice, he has to spend a decent amount of power, and he has to have kill count tokens. Sabretooth just needs to be damaged. Like, you punch Sabretooth, he kills you. That's how Sabretooth works.
I would say
He's also a long mover.
It's like, oh, sweet, I take 3 damage, I spend for no mercy, you're dead. Next person. Like, you just
there
move
is
on.
one thing I'll say about Killmonger, though, there's one thing that's continually hyped about him, is he belongs in 3 factions, and he actually likes being in all 3 factions. And there are very few characters that belong in multiple factions like he does, and also helps every faction like he does. And he benefits from all their tactics cards. He loves all the things that they do. So I think it's one of the things about Killmonger as like a character is if I wanted to like tell a new player to buy a character, Killmonger's one of those characters I would suggest, because I know that character is going to get so much mileage out of him in so many different factions. As your collection grow, Killmonger only becomes more valuable, not less. So that's one thing about Killmonger that keeps the hype up for him, is that they keep printing factions that he's good in. They keep putting him in things.
I actually disagree with that point. He's obviously great in Wakanda, and you're always going to play in Wakanda because they're a parasitic faction. Their abilities work on each other and not a lot of other people. And so you're discouraged from taking people not within Wakanda. And so obviously Killmonger will never be replaced in Wakanda. That's just never going to happen. He's perfect in Wakanda. It's literally the place he's from. So that's fine. In Cabal, Sabretooth has already replaced him. Like, because you look at the cards, you're like, all right, well, Cosmic Invigoration is good on Killmonger. It's also really good on Sabretooth. And it's like, well, Dark Reign's great on Killmonger. It's like, is it? He already has a built-in mechanic that's a large part of his kit about getting his own rerolls. And he's the squishiest character that you're going to be playing at 4 points in Cabal. It's like, he just gets targeted first. I actually think that he's noticeably worse than Sabretooth in Cabal. Because you know who really needs rerolls and wants Dark Reign? Sabretooth. That's who wants it. It's like, Sabretooth is tougher. Sabretooth hits harder most of the time. Killmonger will outdamage him in the perfect situations. But Sabretooth is just a better, well-rounded character. The biggest problem you'll see is not having charge, which is admittedly a fault of Sabretooth. But he does have access to Weapon X training, which will give you a pseudo-charge. And aggressive on a lot of turns is better than charge. If you don't want to spend the 2 power, charge is actually pretty hurtful.
If you don't say that Sabretooth is your underrated character, I'm going to just leave this podcast right now.
No, I think people know Sabretooth is good, is why I don't pick Sabretooth. So Criminals is really the question, right? So moving on to Criminals. Criminals has the problem of a lot of their good characters aren't out yet, I think. Because, is it Mysterio in Criminals? And Black Cat's in Criminals.
Black Cat is, and Mysterio is as well.
Pretty
I
sure
believe, yeah.
Mysterio is. So you're down 2 characters in a moderately sized faction, and they have 2 giant turds in their faction. Bullseye and Crossbones are worthless to me. If I lost them, I would not be sad. Like if someone broke into my car, took Crossbones and Bullseye, I'd be like, well, I guess that's kind of unfortunate, but it doesn't really affect me at all. It's like, I'm glad they didn't take my old Nickelback CD. God, I'd be traumatized. No, I'm just kidding. I listen to Nickelback. But you see my point? Like, the problem is they have 2 bad characters. So even if they have like 7 or 8 people in their faction right now, well, they really have like 5 or 6. And so of the 5 or 6, yeah, Killmonger's going to make the list because he's a good character. He's not a bad 4-point model.
I don't think he's great in
just
Criminals at all, actually. I mean,
I think when people talk about Killmonger, they talk about how great he is. And that's why I picked him. I think he's not great. I think he's good. He's okay. He fits in lists. But unless he's in there for affiliation reasons, which is beyond the point, because he's in there for affiliation reasons, that's not talking about how good the model is. And so I think that's the only reason he should be played at this point, is if you have a very specific strategy in mind, or you need him for affiliation. And so I think he's overrated. All right, Parker, you're up for the underrated character.
Underrated character for me. I struggle with this a little bit because I like playing underdogs, and I have a lot of love for some of the underrated characters of the game. I've already talked, and also my favorite underrated character is. I actually don't know how underrated he actually is. I don't know if there's places where you see this guy all the time. I wanted to say Ronin, because Ronin, you don't see a lot of Ronin. I wanted to say him at first, but I do not know if there are places like, oh, the Ronin meta is so hard around here. I don't know.
The KC meta is trying to put him on the map.
Yeah.
We play Ronin a lot more than other people, I think.
So I decided to go for, who I lost. Now I'm being silly.
Say Angela.
I was going to say, when you were
No,
when you were
I
talking,
remember.
yeah.
I remember what it is. I remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was the underrated character was actually, and I know he's the leader of a faction, which makes this kind of risky, but Black Panther. I think Black Panther out of faction is still a really good character. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, and I've become more and more a believer in Black Panther. Every time I see him in other factions and interacts with other abilities, he seems really strong. The fact that he also enables your list to, split into Wakandans is fantastic. I think Wakandans has always been like a pretty solid second faction, but I think Black Panther by himself is actually a worthwhile choice and isn't chosen enough. When you look at his kit for 4 points, he defends outside of his weight class and hits outside of his weight class. So I like him. I think he's underrated.
No, I actually very much agree with you. I think Black Panther is very much underrated. He doesn't get taken out of affiliation very often, and he's honestly, I don't see him in Avengers very often either. I've played a couple games with him because of the Wakandan list we built, and every game I play with him, I'm like, man, why don't I play this guy? He's so good. Jeremy, do you have anything to say about him?
I can't tell you how many games where you stare at another model that's already activated, and you're like, well, I either have to kill this model or figure out how to push him off the point. You know who does that real good? Mm-hmm. Black Panther. And that's how you win games. Like, that's literally the winning of the game. He's excellent. He's old, but he's excellent.
I thought you were leading into that. With, like, how do you deal with Black Panther once he's gone? I was like, well, at least he's already activated, so he won't do that again.
No.
Like, I thought that's where you were going with that.
No, he's super good.
Yeah, no, Black Panther is amazing. His kit is really solid. Unfortunately, due to the Kansas City meta, no one takes 4-point characters that they don't absolutely require for affiliation. But I think we're starting to, and he's one of the ones that's like exactly like I was talking about, like unaffiliated lists. Like, so what? What if you just built a list of good 4-point characters? Like, it's probably fine. Like, what if you just took like Venom and Sabretooth and Black Panther? You just put them all in one list. What's the problem?
Everybody who is an animal name has to go in the list.
Yeah. I almost chose Black Panther as my underrated model, so I do Killmonger Black Panther. Because I know when it first came out, people are like, just throw the Black Panther away. Like, nobody played Black Panther. It was just Killmonger. Everyone every game had at least one Killmonger in it. And I didn't see Black Panther, but the 2 times I played him, I don't think I ever played against him. All right, Jeremy, you're up.
Okay, so mine, being that I've been on this griefer list build, trying to make it miserable for everyone on the table, I'm going to include the one who I haven't actually fit in my list yet, but Loki. I think Loki is crazy good. And if you've been on the other side of trying to spend your power to do things, and your opponent reminds you, it costs 1 more, and you suddenly can't do anything. You can't charge. You can't throw the thing you wanted to throw. And you have to address how your turn is going to be, even though you've activated and moved. And you're like, fuck, well, I guess this guy's wasted. And you can target Loki when he lets you target him, which is also annoying. Yeah, and I'm talking about the 5-point Loki, not the 4.
Yeah, Mind Stone Loki.
Mhm.
Not 6-point Loki?
Oh, I'm sorry, 6. It's the
He
mind.
doesn't even remember which 2-point stone he can take.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want the
Space
he
Stone.
wants the 6 points.
I think Space Stone Loki might have some play, actually. Nobody's actually looked at what happens when you get to move Thor out of activation, but I think it's interesting. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to strong disagree with this. I almost picked him as overrated. I think that, and this is going to sound really bad because I've played you playing Loki, but I think every time I've played and lost to Loki, it was despite my opponent's play. Every time I play against Loki, dice happen, honestly. Like, I go to attack Loki, and no matter how many 6 dice attacks I spend at him, he takes 0 damage. Which it's not because of I am a god, because they always forget they have it. It's they literally just stand there, and I just don't roll hits. I do think the stuff he brings to the table is valuable. I don't think it's worth his point cost. That's my position on it. I've played a little bit of Asgard, not a ton, but every time I put Loki on the table, I'm like, you are just half of MODOK, and I just want you to be all of MODOK, and you cost the same. I just don't Loki is easier to kill than MODOK, in my opinion. He's elusive, but that shit costs power. Loki doesn't have infinite power. He has a lot, especially with the Mind Stone. But dude, it's 3 power a turn. He doesn't attack very often. Where's your power coming from? And it's well, I can't attack him. He'll just trickster away. It's exactly. Which means you've spent nothing and he spent 3 power. Just do that every time. And it's make him trickster away, get his debuff off of you, attack somebody else. I don't know. It doesn't seem that hard to me, but I don't know. I have lost to Loki. He has definitely impacted my games, but I feel the reason he's impacted my games is just because weird dice math meant that he doesn't die for 2 turns when he should.
Because he's Loki. He's really
I'm not
good.
a fan of Loki. Yeah, exactly.
You're just not
that's
very
the
good.
reason.
Play better.
Yeah, because MODOK and Magneto point blank dumping 4 attacks into Loki should do 0 damage. That's math.
That's what I counted on.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Well, as long as my opponent rolls 0 hits on 24 dice, I should be fine.
It'd be fine.
Yeah. All right, so I guess it's to me now. Underrated model for me. I don't know how you guys didn't see this coming. Do you have any guesses? Does anybody know what I'm going to say?
Toad.
It's not Toad. You're off the fucking podcast. You weaseled your way back in with Black Panther. You said Toad. You're out. Just turn off your computer. I'll drive to your house and unplug it for you. All right. Black Dwarf. I've said this before. Black Dwarf is underrated. He deserves more spots in non-Black Order rosters. He actually is very unloved within his own faction because there's an 8-point module of 2 characters that are basically 3 characters that get taken a lot. The math just doesn't work out for him to get played in his own faction, which is sad because I think he's a really good character. People look at him and they see the move short and they just give up on him, which I think is very wrong because they don't take into account that the large base makes him as fast as most characters. He's not really slow, and he's very hard to move. He holds a flank point exceptionally well. He can win you a flank as a 4-point character. Sure, he's not Black Panther. He's not all over the place, but he does really good damage. He has a good throw, and he's almost impossible to kill 1v1. Solid 4-pointer.
I was actually going to talk about him earlier when we were making the argument of Killmonger being overrated. I actually like Black Dwarf in so many lists before Killmonger. They perform different roles, but Black Dwarf as a 4-point character, you want to talk about like just pure efficiency for the stuff he does. There's a famous moment in an early podcast when we were rating Black Order characters, and Jeremy and I
screamed at you guys for 10
on Black
minutes.
Dwarf, and if you want to go back to the videotape, Brandon tries to convince us for like what was it, like 7 or 8 hours that he's a good character, and we
I was
refused to
stunned.
believe you.
He was really upset. He was very upset.
Yeah,
I
and-
think it's funny because I initially yell at you guys, and then I just kind of get quiet for a while because I thought you were fucking with me. I honestly thought you were joking when you were saying he wasn't good. I was like, all right, can we get past this? And you're like, yeah, my rating's a 3. I'm like, no, but what's your real rating? He's like, no, a 3. I'm like, yeah, I get the joke. What's your actual rating? He's like, no, we rate him a 3. I was like, you guys are insane. Like, I lost my shit. I didn't know what to
Flaming
do.
bag of dog
I thought
shit.
that you guys like randomly, like, your doppelgangers had made it into the Discord call, and I thought that like they didn't know how to play the game, and they thought low numbers were good. Like, I didn't know what was happening. I was like, he has like the best defensive stats in the game. He has like the most hit points outside of Hulk, and he has a 6 dice strike. You're like, yeah, it's 2 for me, dog. I'm like, what is happening? I literally
After
lost my
playing him, I can tell you that he is a really solid character for 4 points. I think, and I think that's the thing, is he's very, very strong for that 4-point thing. But I agree with you. I don't think he'll ever be rated like he should be. I think he'll always be underrated because, like you said, he doesn't fit in his own faction, and so people aren't putting him down to see what he does, like in his own faction. And then when you're looking at the pantheon of the game and you're looking for 4-point characters, he doesn't have a lot of flash. He doesn't have a lot of glitz. Like, he's not a super shiny character that does a whole bunch of things. And when you start crunching the numbers, you're like, holy crud, look at all the stuff he can do. But if you're looking for, really cool tactics cards, we don't have any of those. If you're looking for really cool themes, we don't really have one of those. So
yeah.
he's not super attractive, but he is really strong.
So some quick pros and cons. Cons, obviously, like we say, he doesn't fit in his own faction. Pros, who fits in his faction even less? Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
That guy makes his own affiliation even less than Black Dwarf.
Hey.
But another con? He's unfortunately boxed with Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
So he's unfortunately a $55 model, I think. I think he might just be 50. But yeah, it's overpriced for Black Dwarf because he comes with Ebony Maw, unfortunately. Hopefully, who will eventually be fixed. And then pros, I think his model is awesome. It's a great figure.
His model
it's very
is super
intimidating.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got some cool detail on it. It is a little blocky because it's not as clean as the new sculpts, but the concept for it was spot on. They do a really good job of hiding the gaps on the model. Very nice. But yeah, as a very analytical person, I immediately deconstruct models by their stats and then try and evaluate them that way. And so as soon as I saw Black Dwarf, I was like, this guy's insane. And so I immediately tried to get him on the table, but Thanos just says no so often because you get into this trap of circular logic of, well, I'm going to start my list with Black Dwarf. And you put in Thanos. You put in the Stones Thanos once, and you're like, what can I take now? It's like, well, I could put in Corvus Glaive. And you're like, so you put Corvus Glaive, and you're like, well, Corvus Glaive needs the Reality Stone to be his best self. You put in the Reality Stone, it's like, well, you really want Proxima if you're going to be efficient. So you put Proxima, and you're just like, man, I'm 4 points over. Hey, I can cut this Black Dwarf and get down to my point total. And it's just every time. It leads back to the same spot. It's like, that affiliation abhors 4-point characters. It just cannot happen. Like, the points don't work so often.
I feel like
it's sad.
I feel like there's two. I think Criminals would really use him really well, and also Storm. The placement shenanigans has got to be just crazy with him, and Criminals being that you will never get him off the goddamn table. Like, he's going to be on a point forever.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Defenders as well. How do you kill him in Defenders when you can heal 5 of them every turn? Like, he's not going anywhere.
So he does have
how
use.
How about this? Well, I was going to say, what if you play him in A-Force? So every time an ally is damaged, he gains a power. Because he has pseudo bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
So they attack somebody, Black Dwarf gets a power, then Black Dwarf spends 2 power on their next attack to redirect the attack to Black Dwarf. And then you get on the and then you're like, oh, I took a damage, I gain a power. And then they attack somebody else, like, I gain a power. You're like, hey, I'll bodyguard this next one. But he doesn't have to be next to the person you're bodyguarding. He has to be next to the attacker. So you just dig him into the middle. And it's like, well, unless you're going to leave this point and let me have it, I'm going to be bodyguarding your ranged attacks, which is really annoying. Like, if he's just standing on top of MODOK has to leave.
Yeah. I think
Anyway.
he has play, but for some reason we just can't seem to get him in there, like
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make a stronger effort for it. I do this with all of the Black Order. I had to make an active effort for the X-Men list to put Corvus and Proxima in there because I look at them as like a different game. Like there's the Black Order game, and then there's Marvel Crisis Protocol. And I don't even keep my Black Order models with the rest of my models. I keep them in the display case with my Black Order diorama. I don't even put them on my tray because it's so rare I even consider putting them in a list outside of Black Order.
I think Corvus and Proxima have a lot of play in other, like a lot. They do a lot for the game.
Yeah, I mean they're good. I think there's definitely some lists that take advantage of it more. I really like the Storm interaction because the medium base with two models that already want to stand near each other the whole game is exactly what they want. Also, cover plus damage reduction, very solid combo already. So yeah, that's great. The problem with we see every time with X-Men is when you have an 8-point non-X-Men module, guess what the rest of your list is? Oh, it's like Storm, Beast, Taskmaster. What a great list! And you're like, well, that's just boring. Like it's derivative, which is why. But unfortunately, with X-Men in that situation, you can't cut the affiliation because that's why the list works. The affiliation bonus is what you're trying to abuse. But yeah, I think we made some good choices here today, except for Rocket. I don't know how that happened. That makes no sense.
I think he's. You guys let me talk for over 45 seconds before you poo-pooed me. I think he's overrated.
Undefendable.
I think he's overrated.
Undefendable. Stop trying to defend it. It's undefendable.
I don't think he's king shit of fuck mountain. I think he's a great character. I do not think he should belong in every list that you can put, that you like. Oh, you have a free spot. Put it in Rocket Raccoon, and you will do better. I don't think that's true. I don't think he is a Swiss Army knife. I think he's exactly a really long pointy stick, and if you want that exactly, go ahead and do it. But I do not think he belongs. I don't think he ever needed the same treatment that we used to give Killmonger, or maybe some people still do give Killmonger, where you just drop him in every list because he's Rocket Raccoon. I don't think
Rocket ever got to that point, but yeah. Actually, he kind of did because you're not just it's Kansas City. Remember, you don't just put 4-point characters in lists for no reason,
right? And for some reason that never happened to the other 2-pointers.
I get your point. I just think that my impression of where Rocket was in the meta and your impression were different, which is why you chose him, which I understand. I'm just fucking with you.
Okay. Got it.
But you are very wrong. That thing I said is still correct. All right. So, Parker, why don't you give us a comic corner and we'll get out of here.
All right. So, in honor of the She-Hulk coming out and our other green beastie, the Hulk, I don't know, what is he going to do now? Hold down shelves? I feel like that's what he's doing now.
He's throwing size 5 train at you now.
I should have talked about this. Real quick, I'm going to pause you, Parker. I just played the ultimate list of Ultimate Destiny, which is Hulk, She-Hulk, and Doctor Strange with the Time Stone. It wasn't nearly as bad as I expected it to be.
Okay.
Being able to bodyguard your Hulk with your other Hulk and then heal both Hulks wasn't bad.
Okay. So
go ahead, continue.
Well then, okay. If that's all we're going to do now is play Hulks, I do have a really good one for you. It's a famous one. When you hear it, you'll probably be like, "Oh, I've heard of that one." It's World War Hulk. Greg Pak it was responsible for writing it, and I think this is like the second week in a row that John Romita Jr. has been the artist of my feature. I just love this guy. Anything he touches turns to beautiful. But Greg Pak has done a lot of fantastic things, and he loves the Incredible Hulk. He's really responsible for expanding into like what we experience now in the Marvel Universe, was kind of a Hulk family, where there's so many different varieties of characters surrounding Hulk. We used to just be the Hulk and then all the humans he knew. Now there's the whole like superhero subgenre of Hulkish characters, And World War Hulk is a really cool story that follows right behind another really great story called Planet Hulk. But World War Hulk, I think, is more applicable to Marvel Crisis Protocol because the point is the Illuminati, made up of most of the characters in this game, actually almost all the good guys, Doctor Strange, Black Bolt, and several of the other big thinkers, all decided
like Tony
to...
Stark, Mr. Fantastic, and Namor, right?
Yeah, there was like a later one. I think the Illuminati at this time, the Illuminati at this time were all fairly like benign, and then they got more like sinister as they went, which is part of the point, right? Okay. You don't try to go behind the scenes and manipulate everyone. But anyway, they all decide that they know better. The Hulk constantly just kind of goes out of control and threatens the planet with his incredible power. And so they decide to shoot him into deep space. And so they aimed for this planet that was going to be inhabited by nothing, and he just lives his life in peace. But everything goes awry. He gets sucked into another world, and basically we see like part of that story where he's on that other planet told in Thor Ragnarok, where he's kind of shows up as a gladiator, and they tell a piece of that story. But Thor Ragnarok really divorces from the one in the comic books, because in the comic books, Thor eventually takes over the whole planet, becomes emperor of the world, and then the spaceship that brought him to the planet explodes, and it destroys most of the population of the planet. It's this terrifying, horrible explosion. And he survives it, of course, and a few of his loyal followers, his closest people, survive it, and they get in a spaceship and come back to Earth because he believes that they did it on purpose. The human beings actually sent them to the other planet and rigged the spaceship to explode. And so he has lost his world. He's lost his new wife that was killed in the explosion, and who apparently her baby. So he is lost. Like, actually, I don't know if he knows that she was pregnant at the time, but he has lost everything. And so the whole point is, when Hulk gets mad, you don't like it when he's mad. And this is Hulk as the maddest he's ever been in the Marvel universe when he comes back to get revenge for what the heroes of the planet do. And so World War Hulk is all about that. He declares war on the planet, specifically the heroes, the members of the Illuminati. He outs them to the world and basically points the finger, and each one of them fight him in turn, and he beats them all hilariously. It's really good. So if you want to see a really good Hulk story, it mixes in a lot of the characters in the primary Marvel universe. It also has one of my favorite things in all comic books, which is a knockdown, drag-out fight between two ridiculously overpowered, like ridiculous, limitless potential kind of individuals. The Sentry, for those you don't know who he is, I hope he's never put into this game. He's like Superman on steroids. He's so powerful. Yeah. Eventually,
like Superman plus Green Lantern times infinity.
Yeah. At one point, he steps up to the plate against the Hulk, and their fight is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the Marvel universe. It's awesome. So if you if you want to see a really cool Hulk fight, but also a really really interesting story about somebody coming back for revenge against heroes, one of the things I love about this story is that it actually spends time talking about how heroes aren't always heroic, and there are some things about them that people should be concerned about. Because unlike what you might imagine, right? Hulk comes back to the planet Earth, declares war on the heroes. You would think everybody goes, Hulk again, out to destroy everyone. But it's actually the opposite. People are really excited because once they found out they've been lied to by these heroes and they tried to kill him and accidentally destroyed a planet, they are on his side. So it's really like the Hulk and most of Earth now against the heroes. The public opinion shifts against them. It's a really cool dynamic in this story that they explore it. Really well done. So if you like the Hulk, but in general the Marvel universe, you'll like it.
I remember when this story arc was coming out because the game store 31st Century was carrying comics at the time, and so it was the weekly comic was like the topic of debate at the store, and so I actually know a decent amount of what happens in the storyline on this one, even though I didn't read it. And so it was kind of funny because everyone would make fun of, oh, it's a Hulk comic, so it's terrible. Like, it's like Smash, nothing important happens. And it's like, well, they're making it important. And so everyone was arguing about it the whole time. Am I correct? Is the World War Hulk commonly referred to as World Breaker Hulk? Is that the same one, or is that a different Hulk?
Well, on Sakaar, right, the planet that he's sent to,
Yeah.
there are two prophecies about him that have equal merit amongst the people. Either the World Breaker, right, the person who comes to destroy the world, or the Life Bringer, right, like the person who's going to save everyone. And throughout the Planet Hulk comic series, that's one of the main themes: is what is Hulk? Is he coming to destroy, or is he coming to, bring life back to this planet? And when he comes to Earth, he assumes the role of World Breaker. That's what he says he is. I'm here to break the world.
Okay. And,
of course, the thing about the Hulk is at the end of the day, the Hulk character is still heroic, right? He has, like, a boundary, right? And
he's doing what he thinks is right.
Yeah. Or what he thinks is just, right? What he thinks is correct. So
he's getting revenge.
Yeah. In this case, he believes that they need comeuppance. Everyone needs to know what they did, which is, super cool.
So Hulk thinks their comeuppance has come due.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Jeremy's just shaking his head like, I hate you guys. Alrighty, cool. When I was reading, I don't read comics, unfortunately. I'm considering, honestly, after the novel, I'm wondering how bad it would be to go through and read an actual comic book. So I might, after COVID's over, borrow a couple of your books and see if I can get through it. I've never been able to do it before, so we'll see. I do love everything about the Marvel comics except reading Marvel comics, so we'll see. But when I was reading a website that basically had a synopsis of Juggernaut's storyline, and it was talking about during the World War Hulk stuff, he actually fought the World War Hulk, because obviously they're throwing all the big guys in at some point in that storyline. And they were talking about how, because at the time he had basically given in to Sidorak and like agreed to be the force of destruction that Sidorak wanted him to be, he gave him like full access to Sidorak's power, so he was actually able to stand toe to toe with World War Hulk for a while. And so I don't know if that was true, but that's what it said on the website. So
yeah,
anyway.
the main issue usually has like panels and things to allude to all the individual fights, but it was a major Marvel event.
Yeah.
So almost every title at the time, was a World War Hulk miniature event.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I don't know if Juggernaut had his own title then, or maybe it was an X-Men title that was exploring it. But yeah, everybody there's a She-Hulk was a famous fight also, because of course she's the other gamma-powered hero, and so there's the She-Hulk fight that it's fleshed out in the She-Hulk comic that we don't get to see in the main graphic novel, but we just get it's alluded to. You see, a page or two about it. But
cool. All right, well that's gonna do it for us today. Thanks for listening. This has been Brandon
and Parker
and Jeremy. Angela's overrated.
Overrated. And you have been listening to the Revengers podcast.
Woohoo!
Are you getting revenge? I'm getting revenge. Do you want revenge?
I had some revenge earlier.
Was it good?
It was sweet.
Oh yeah, nice. Alrighty, that wasn't too bad. It went a lot longer than I expected it would. I think we definitely beat the horse into submission.
Did we? A pulp, if you will.
I think we've just proven that we can make just about anything last for 2 hours. Good job, guys.
Well done. You guys fucking suck.
You know what while we were talking, I was plugging away at kind of this problem about, speaking of the Ghost Rider Ronin in.
I saw you plugging away on your phone for quite a while.
Well, I had to get a few fights done before midnight.
Had to blitz.
Yeah, I actually didn't blitz. I was just doing.
I did see you. I saw you doing blitz, and I saw you not responding to me talking to you.
I actually went back to this Avengers list, and now that Venom and Sabretooth exist, and they're just cheaper than Ronin and Ghost Rider, this list actually, a griefing list in Avengers is actually not entirely out of the question. The only problem is,
yeah, but it's
basically have to
it's not the true
lot.
griefing list. It's just the counterattack list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not full
No, you
grief
can
mode.
you can do all 4, which we have, and it basically creates that small wormhole, and your head wants to explode.
It's worth an affiliation bonus on its own. It's when you literally can't attack anybody with it, because the problem isn't like what happens on the initial engagement, right? Like there's no question about that. The problem isn't turn 2, it's turn 3, because what happens on turn 3 is 3 of your people are bleeding, 2 of them are judged, 1 of them is hexed, and most of them are on half hit points. Now what do? Who do you attack now? Do you attack Sabretooth? Do you attack Ghost Rider? Do you attack Ronin? Do you attack Venom? Because I can tell you, whoever the fuck you decide to attack, your character dies mid-activation. Because the problem is, you goes like, all right, Wolverine has 3 hit points left, and he's bleeding. So what do? Or maybe he's not bleeding. You go to punch Ghost Rider, which is the correct answer. So you get judged when you choose to attack Ghost Rider. Then he gets lethal protected. So now you're actually punching Venom. So Wolverine punches Venom, does just enough damage to let him We Are Venom back and kill you. And so now what do? Because it's his turn. And so now Venom just activates and kills somebody. And now what? I guess I attack Venom? And he's like, so now you get judged. Now you get vengeance, so every crit you roll is a damage against your character, and then you're going to get so many snacks. Now 2 of your characters are dead. You've made 2 attacks. It's like, what do? It's so annoying. You have to split them up. You can't fight them as a group. And so you have to find a way to play a mission that spreads them out, which all that means is you never actually play the list. Because he just plays the list that's in the roster that isn't that list. Because it's just five character slots. And a lot of those characters are reusable. So it's so frustrating. Yeah, I don't even know, like, the amount of frustration you're going to cause your opponent is worth playing the list once.
Oh, man.
It happen.
It's
when they're
hilarious.
Like, all right, so if I attack here, what happens? If I attack here, what happens? If I attack here, what happens? And it's like, and almost regardless of what you do, someone's moving, someone else is attacking, and you're getting debuffed. And the debuffs don't go away. You're still debuffed at the end of it. And if you actually manage to kill one of them, what happens now? And what was it? Was it 20 points, Jeremy? Was that the list we played? I think it was 20.
It was 20, because I had...
Because you had Nebula.
Nebula
you also
was
had
there,
Nebula.
yeah.
Yeah, which means Deal with the Devil is back on the table. And so, what do you do when Ghost Rider, the character you need to kill Ghost Rider, actually dies and he just comes back to life at full health? It's like, you fucking scoop. It's over.
And
like,
also...
you can't get through it before your people die.
And also, once you use Lethal Protector...
You just end up taking more damage than them.
Once you use Lethal Protector, all of a sudden Ghost Rider does become live. Because then Lethal Protector's off the table for all of his crazy griefing he can do. So usually, like, I was thinking about, that's probably the key character to use once Lethal Protector is done. Because that takes that off the table, and then Ghost Rider goes, twice, or whatever, but... in all...
You mean Deal with the Devil?
No.
Or you mean Lethal Protector?
No, I'm saying, so...
I'm not following you.
You would, once Lethal Protector is used up as the card, then Deal with the Devil becomes live if you don't have Nebula. Because then you basically would use it on Venom, because now Lethal Protector.
You're saying you
gone.
don't need Venom at that point.
Yeah, he's not half as critical as he would be.
I mean, obviously, the answer is the way you beat the list is you just laser one guy down. But between all the debuffing and Lethal Protector, that isn't always easy. And so that means that your whole list is moving towards one of their characters, which is really just up to them to realize and counter with positioning. And so it's like, all right, well, we're going after Sabretooth. Doesn't matter. Everyone's going after Sabretooth. Well, you should realize that his whole list is moving towards one guy.
Yeah.
And you just move him away. Speed long.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get the Lethal Protector to stop one of them. And even if they daze you once, right? Like, you still have the injured side.
Well, the thing is,
but then
Sabretooth
you have
is really...
Web Snare. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Sabretooth is the character probably to go after, because all of his stuff, all his retaliatory stuff is only range 2. So if you have enough range 3 attacks, or if you have the ability to move him and then attack him or something like that, or push him and attack him, he's really going to struggle to do his thing while he's going down.
No, he has aggressive.
That's why he's in there. Also,
Yeah.
you know what's
if he didn't
really
have
funny?
aggressive, he wouldn't be nearly as good.
Face
You're
Me
right,
in
aggressive-
that list
aggressive.
is the funnest card in the whole
It's
world.
so good.
Face Me in that
So
list
good.
is so fucking good. Like, oh my god. Even
Honestly,
not, oh, God.
there are situations when the answer is I decline the attack. I think that's honestly the correct answer in some situations.
It is.
A free attack, and one of your characters gets to make a free attack using any attack they want. They just have to spend the power out of activation. I think they say no sometimes.
I think
it's
you
so
have
dumb.
to.
Yeah. Because you know what's not okay? Venom attacking 4 times around.
Oh, dude.
It's so dumb.
It's quite a
Because
thing.
I don't know if you've looked at the math on how much damage a character does when they get judged before they take a point of damage. Because there's so few power in the game when you get judged so early.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, Wolverine walks up and attacks Venom, you're judged. You're like, okay, whatever. And then, you attack Venom, Venom hits you back. You're like, sweet, oh wait, no, I still have 0 power. All right, I attack you again. It's like, all right, Venom takes a couple power, or a couple damage, you get a couple power. Then Venom goes and eats you. You have like 3 power.
It's so bad.
Because you dealt 3 damage. So
So-
you flip over, now you're injured with 4 power. And you're like, now what? It's like you don't have enough you don't get the rubber band mechanic. Go ahead.
And even worse, you can set
So-
yourself up to do that and then take their power with Ghost Rider, which is I did that yesterday.
Yeah. Penance Stare.
Hmm
So the other faction it sounds the unaffiliated option sounds great, and you've got Brotherhood, Cabal, Spider People, Defenders, or Guardians that could use one of the characters if you just wanted to play
Sure.
another faction.
Mm-hmm.
So since you're almost all actually it is an 18-point list, right? So they could also
Yes.
just lowball you, and that could be hard.
Well, but I don't think a lot of people would recognize that's what you're playing,
True,
honestly.
but if they do lowball
And-
you, if they pick a 16
Well, then,
pointer,
yeah,
then
You
know
play
that
your
module-
other list.
right. You play your other list.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
is
what
it-
happened yesterday.
You only
It picked
play
17.
the Bash Bros. Yeah, you only play the Bash Bros if it works. You only get it if you get favorable scenario matchup.
It's really funny though.
Oh man,
It's so funny.
it's brutal. So it was obviously the first time you had played it. You played it not perfectly by a long shot.
Oh no,
but
it was a mess.
Still brutal.
it was a
I think if
tangled
you had
mess.
a couple more reps, there's no way I win that game. I was playing Wakandans plus Venom and Valkyrie. Like, I had a strong list, and he was just walking all over me. Venom gets judged. You know what Venom does when he's been judged and shocked?
Nothing.
0. That's
Yeah.
what
He does nothing.
He's
Yeah.
like,
Jack and shit.
I have 4 attack dice, and yeah, no power. Cool. All right, I'm dead. And so you just watch Venom die for nothing because he doesn't retaliate. And you're just like, oh my god, you just made a really good 4-point character completely worthless.
What was the? How did I?
With
what was
2
getting
power.
you shocked? How were you shocked? I don't remember how that.
Nebula.
Oh God, Nebula.
And I lethal protector to save Killmonger, which is why Venom got shocked.
Yep. Oh God.
And then I didn't have enough power to so many snacks because I was judged from fucking Ronin.
It was such a mess.
Yeah. And then Ronin's fucking energy blasting me, pushing me backwards, and Venom doesn't have enough power to web snare people towards him. So he's just walking short back into the battle, not attacking. It was so brutal. I'm so glad we recorded that game. That was brutal.
There were seriously like moments where there was so many responses that it was like totally like timeout. Hold on. Hold
Yeah.
on. Time
We
out.
have to do this by the timing chart because there's so many things happening.
It was really sick.
Because you're like, all right,
Like you said-
I declare an attack. No, because it's really as stupid as I declare an attack. Okay, you trigger Spirit of Vengeance, you trigger Judgment, you trigger Lethal Protector. You're like, okay, let me place my
Whose
model,
turn is it?
get my power, place a token on you. Okay, continue your attack against this model. Okay, here's my attack. Here's the damage. Cool. All right, now I'm going to trigger this ability, which is going to put this effect on you, and then I'm going to gain this power, and then I'm going to use this ability on I'm going to pay the 2 for Ghost Rider to then deal damage to you based on the dice that you rolled in that attack. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there's so much stuff, and like you get your opponent is like waiting on you, and they get bored, so like they move their dice. You're like, no, we need those. You gotta leave those there. like those will happen later. You're like, what?
Yeah, because there was moments where we're like, hold on, did you roll some crits? You're like, yeah, and I'm like, fuck, how many? It was like it was crazy. That was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. Yeah. It's probably worthwhile for some more investigation.
I don't know if there's a better version of that list. The Griefer list, I think, is the 4 Bash Bros. Like, I don't know that there's a better one. The two counterattackers are just so mean. I guess you could do a cheaper one with actual Counter-Strike people. Like, you could do Taskmaster and Zemo, which would probably be okay. But it's obviously not the same, but it's cheaper points.
Yeah.
Honestly, the bleeds are so brutal.
Yeah.
Because you're counterattacking probably 2/3 of their turns, because Ghost Rider and Ronin just sit back and wait for the battle to play out.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your option is double attack Venom or move past Venom to single attack Ghost Rider, you're like, well, that seems dumb. Like, you just don't.
I don't like either of those. Can I just leave?
Yeah. Can I choose option C, which is run the fuck away from your army?
Go very quickly. Go away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right,
I like this.
Here.
I'm gonna try this.
Okay, what is it?
It's the Bang Bros, plus Guardians like core. So Star-Lords, Drax, Nebula, Rocket, Groot, and I actually think I found out a way to put enough I think I have enough space in the tactics cards to actually fit in Lovable Misfits and Deadly Duo, and then just other good cards. Yeah, I think.
So you have Deal with the Devil, Lethal Protector, Exceptional Healing, and I think there's one more. No, maybe you could live with just those 3.
Yeah, I did those 3.
You have those in there, right?
I did those 3. Medpack, Field Dressing, Face Me, Lovable Misfits.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hate that. And so what's the rest of your roster slots?
Sabretooth, Venom, Ghost Rider, Ronin, Gem Power. And then the front 5 are Star-Lord, Drax, Nebula, Rocket, Groot.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. That's fine. That's pretty much, I think, what Jeremy was playing, except he was doing X-Men instead for the last bit. Mm-hmm. I think you heavily load... Well, I guess you really can't. You gotta remember, though, 50% of the time, you get priority, which means you're choosing the point total.
Yep.
And so if you put... I believe it's red missions have double 18s, because it's Worthy... And I think there's Black Order, Descend on City, I think is also 18. Let me check. Because I think if you choose red, you can always choose an 18-pointer. Stupid list.
You just choose 20.
All right, so we have...
If you're going red, you choose 20.
You can, but I mean, you
may
don't
not
always get the option to choose 20.
Yeah,
That's
you may
my
not
point.
get No, there's 2 blues that are
so,
18. It's Mutant Madman is 18.
Mutant Madman and Portals.
And
Portals is not great for you. It's okay, I guess. Same with Madman. So yeah, you probably choose red, and you can do
Panic
evacuation efforts.
Yeah,
Panic. This is not sorting correct. Oh, it must just not.
Oh, wouldn't you do Demons? Obviously,
Demons is good. If you're doing
for that
blue.
list,
but you're
what if you
down then.
Yeah.
You also don't like taking damage. You don't have a lot of healing in that list. Like you don't want to be.
No, you just ignore the points. You don't go for them. You just wait for your opponent to make the mistake of going for them, and then they get incinerated and you kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, you completely ignore the scenario. You pick up, like, hopefully, honestly, the ideal situation is you play the Worthy. Your opponent's dumb enough to choose the Worthy against you, and then you choose, like, Demons or something on blue side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, you have not planned this out well. And because if Sabretooth and... Honestly, if any of those characters get hammers, it's bad. Ronin's probably the least bad, just because he doesn't attack as often, and when he does, he's already sending like 8 or 9 dice, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, but like Venom or Sabretooth or Ghost Rider getting hammers is such a bad thing for you.
Ghost Rider with hammers is sick, with the 3-inch reach on those weapons. It's just crazy.
I saw him get 3 hammers against somebody. It was just like, game fucking over. You'll never catch him is the problem. He'll kill 2 people with 9 dice energy strikes, and then it's like hell on wheels away, and you're like, ugh. You just never get a chance to get the hammers back.
Is Portals worth it just because you can pick blue and guarantee 18 points?
Yes, it is. Because don't forget, your other list is Guardians, which don't mind Portals.
Yeah. So
that's what I was saying. You can't just load up on the kill missions if you're playing Guardians, because Guardians don't want to play that.
Right.
I can't get the draft thing out of my head, man. Everybody needs to get back to the store and we need to start fucking playing again. That draft thing seems kind of awesome.
Yeah.
The draft mode of this game?
No, well, there's a fan-made draft mode where you do a fantasy football league with $100 buy-in. Well, it's not real money. It's if you haven't done this before, basically the way fantasy football leagues work when it's a draft league, and not like a rotational draft, but like a money draft, is you'll have an imaginary amount of money, say $100 each, just because it's a round number, and you'll go around in your normal draft order, but instead of picking a player, you nominate a player. And so, like, if you know football, let's say you go Patrick Mahomes, number one. And so the first guy says Patrick Mahomes, you put him on the board, and then you have an auction for that person on your team. So the highest bidder gets him. But you have to build a whole team. So if you go like, I bid $100 on Patrick Mahomes, well, you automatically lose because you don't have any other players, and he's not going to beat a team of 11 people. So
right.
So it's the same concept with this, is you're like, all right, well, I choose Ultron. And so, like, nobody else wants Ultron because I know I'm the only one that likes Ultron. You bid $1, you get him, right? And so one of the strategies you can do is, like, I'm going to intentionally pick, like, MODOK first. And people will go apeshit outbidding each other for MODOK. I'm going to intentionally not bid. And so you let him go, and you still have $100, and the guy who got MODOKs is, like, 75 left. And you're like, all right, next up, Magneto. And you're like, someone who is like really good, but hopefully doesn't pair well with the other guy. And so you're trying to hit different people's money totals and knock them down. And that way you have like a lot of money left for the middle tier stuff. And then you go build like an Asgard list or something. That's one strategy. But yeah, it's basically how it works is you'll go around and like you'll do all this different stuff. And so they were like, yeah, you can draft like cards and characters and whatever you want. And then you play random missions throughout a league. And then, you get points for games and whatever.
It breaks down to basically threat level
Sounds
is
fun.
about $5 per threat. So anything that goes above or below that, you can look at value. Like I think MODOK and the one I was listening to, which they did it in Europe and they did it in this country and they did it in Australia. So there was those. But the average for MODOK was about $35, $40, which is pretty fucking high. And
right.
then
But what was the average for Ebony Maw though?
I don't know. I know
Do you have to buy every character?
He could be
Skip him.
literally like priceless, Jeremy. Priceless Ebony Maw.
You're like $100.
There is no price you can apply to him
$100
that people would be able to pay. Yeah.
$101.
We have to the funny part is me and Parker playing Marvel Strike Force, which is the phone app game. It's a fun hero builder that is strategy based. It's kind of like Final Fantasy, but you collect the heroes of Marvel. But Ebony Maw in that game is like literally top tier, like almost the best character in the game. Mm-hmm. He's fucking retarded. Like he's so busted, and he's not like it's so crazy good. But part of the reason he's good is because there's the team synergies, right? You only have 5 characters. And so you have to build a good team, and conveniently, Black Order slots in really well on a 5-character team. And so Thanos is just a good tank on his own, but if you get the 4 Black Order lieutenants on him, each of them bring a stone to give to Thanos, so he gets empowered for each Black Order member on his team. Except Ebony Maw, who brings 3, because, there's only 4 of them. And so Ebony Maw gives him the reality, time, and, space stone, and he just, goes massive power level, and then, he's a really good, character in the game in addition to that. So it's just he's amazing. So it's just annoying to see him in a game being what he should be, which is awesome, and then seeing him in Marvel Crisis Protocol where he's like
wah wah wah.
Yeah. Hey.
Yep.
Ebony Maw stumbled so Magneto could run. It's okay.
That's true. That is exactly how it happened.
I'm fine with it. It's just sad. Like, I'm not sour about it anymore. As soon as I saw Magneto's car, I'm like, I see what happened.
Got it.
So I actually think we're going to have a really short episode today. Mostly because Parker's 3.5 hours late, but...
Are we... What is the main topic? Oh, the outside the box stuff.
We don't have one because you're super late.
Cool.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is because we've been building a lot of unaffiliated lists lately, and I don't know if we're just freaking crazy or if like other people are starting to do the same thing.
Mm.
Because obviously, when there was only like 12 characters, building an unaffiliated list was dumb. Because how can you not accidentally become affiliated somehow? Like, it's like, oh, look, surprise, you added in the 3-point leader and your list is magically affiliated now. So it just didn't make sense. And then we started seeing, like, the griefing list that Parker built originally, which was Ghost Rider and Ronin. And so he was playing it in Guardians because you can't play it in anything else. Because if you're doing Strange, Ronin, and Ghost Rider to try and play Defenders, it doesn't work because you have 3 5-point characters with the Power Stone, and that's before you even take a stone on Doctor Strange. So it just falls apart too quickly. Then so we transition into trying it back in Guardians with different other characters, and it's fine because Guardians' faction ability is they have a lot of efficient characters, right? It's not really about anything else. And rerolls are always good, which is fine. So, and if you can't afford Star-Lord, you basically just play unaffiliated, which is what we started looking at. Is what if our initial plan was play unaffiliated? What could you start squeezing in that was much better? And so if you're only looking at, I want to build a strategy and not care about trying to make an affiliation, and so then burning like 8 roster slots on that, and then when you get towards the end, seeing if you can pivot that into like well, at some point totals, I could like slot in Storm and see, what happens with that. Like, what if I put in Storm and Taskmaster? Does this suddenly become an X-Men list? Like, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Taskmaster and other 3-point leaders is a good 2-character add-in to an unaffiliated roster.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what if we just put Miles and Taskmaster in here? And you're like, well, that's probably fine.
I actually think it works pretty good.
Parker,
I'm very comfortable with that list I have.
Yeah, me too. Parker,
So,
do you have I was just going to say, are you finished with news?
Yeah.
You ready to go?
I think this is exhaustive. Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Did you get the Tactics cards? I don't see the Tactics cards.
Wait, there are new Tactics cards? Where?
Yeah, they spoiled their Tactics cards. I linked it in the general.
What?
Infernal Tactics cards spoiled live on camera. Jeremy, quit moving to the general voice chat. It's in the text channel. Every time I say general, he moves to the general voice channel. And it's like, where'd Jeremy go? Like,
Fine.
He's like,
Fine.
where'd everybody go?
I know.
Oh, I missed this. Yeah, it's
Every week.
We have the
Every
Inhumans-
week he does it.
We have the Inhumans cards. Yep. I need to fix this. Okay, let me fix it.
No, I was gonna say we actually have a lot of news.
Yeah, fix it.
Oh my god, how
It's
much
kind of hard
do I
to
hate
read
the
this though.
Inhumans?
Do you have a better version of this in the chat?
I just posted a link. What do you mean?
Is it in the general? You said.
Yeah, general. Just click the link. Don't try and read the post. That's just a summary.
Okay, yeah, that's the same one I had.
Terra Genesis, bitter rivals.
How is that hard to read? It's a blog post.
Oh, I was talking about the actual card text. I was looking at the card text.
Oh, no. They explain it.
Okay, go faster.
Take your time. We're good. I mean, it is 3:30 in the morning, but
Terra Genesis is kind of funny.
yeah, I thought it was funny too.
Hey, who's your friend there? Blam!
Yeah, because civilians don't fuck with you enough already,
I know.
right?
Why are these dudes that like run around such bitches?
Mm-hmm.
And you paste 3.
We need to quit. We need to quit burning good content in the pre-ramble.
I know.
Let's talk about something else.
Oh
Although this episode is probably gonna be so short that people will actually listen to the pre-ramble.
my god, I hate I hate Bolt so much. He
Why,
has
Bolt? Why?
those stupid fucking gill wings or whatever they are.
Mm.
Oh my god. Did he get those off of a windowsill? Like, what the fuck are those?
I assumed he was just the actual attempt at making a Batman costume.
All right, I'm gonna get those.
His tuning fork is to make higher screeching noises, and then he just
Roll
flaps his
4
wings.
Dice.
Oh my
Deal
god.
1.
Just copy and paste it.
Yeah, I guess I could just. Yeah, I guess I won't try to copy it on here. I'll just stare really hard.
Copy the text in the blog post. Don't copy the picture.
Oh, okay. Where is it? I'll reformat it here in a second.
That's fine.
Oh, we There's a card that's not pictured, but it is in here. Okay, damn it.
So they are out in like a month, right?
I actually have the release date already. It is news alert. I guess we could put that in here. It doesn't really matter. It's the 8th.
Yeah.
No, not the 8th. The 12th.
Oh my god.
The 12th of February?
Pretty sure.
Man, in this art, Crystal has such like Karen hair. She looks so old and mad.
Oh yeah. You know, she would do with a nice bang. You know what I mean? Just a nice a nice bang.
The coolest Inhumans story ever is in the Ultimates universe. They're really interesting in the Ultimates universe.
Huh. Yeah.
But they're like most things in the Ultimates universe, much more interesting than anything they ever did in 616.
Do you think someone glued the tuning fork to his head as a joke and he doesn't know?
Yes.
I mean, because like, what the fuck?
That's
Why would you?
obviously the case.
It's
actually a tool. It helps him focus his stupid beam attack. Because me and Parker talked about this. Apparently, his power isn't from his voice being loud, right? That's kind of like the initial impression you get. But actually what happens is his body releases a like matter destabilization ray. And it's what triggers it because of his like fake mutant power is when he stimulates the speech centers of his brain. And so him talking is actually not harmful in any way. It's actually almost exactly like Cyclops' ability. Like, the motion of opening his eyes opens portals in his eye holes that release the energy from another dimension. As where it's kind of the same thing. It's not Black Bolt's voice, it's him attempting to speak is what triggers his power. Like, the mental thought of, let me talk, or make a like guttural noise or something is what releases his power. And so it's just dumb.
Why does the dog also have a tuning fork?
Because they're friends.
Shut up.
Oh.
Shut up. The dog can do whatever it wants.
Parker's mad.
The dog is harmless here. The dog is the only one that makes any sense.
Do the females also have a tuning fork?
That's the problem, Parker.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
All right, you got the spaces.
All right.
Who's the guy with the box? Is he a boxer?
He is.
He's
Karnak.
a martial artist.
Yeah, that's Karnak, and he's not coming in the game, right? He's not.
Not currently.
Yeah, he's another member of the royal family. His powers are that he can see, he can find the weakness in anything, like just find the weak point.
Yeah.
So,
like, he can tell you exactly the space to tap on a pane of glass to shatter it.
Yeah. There's a really...
Or,
go ahead.
Like, he can shatter a boulder with, like, a palm strike because he can just see, like, the weakness within its structure.
Right. One of my favorite things he ever does in one of the comics I have, he's a danger to himself. He's trying to commit suicide. And so the Avengers have him locked up in a Hulk-proof cell, and he's talking to Medusa about about what he's using his powers basically to see the weakness in the Inhuman royal family and like their power structure. And so he's like observing it, and he's like coming to basically he's discovering that the Inhumans are going to implode upon themselves, right? They have this terrifying weakness. And as he's doing that, he's just kind of lazily drawing with his hand, etching on the Hulk-proof glass. And Captain America goes, "Is that Hulk-proof glass?" And Iron Man says, "Yes." There's no way he should be able to do that. And he's just like, it's like kind of not really thinking about it, just destroying Hulk-proof glass with his fingertips. So he is a cool character. Like, he does some cool stuff. He's kind of like the Flash. It's like kind of like that power seems infinitely powerful, so it's kind of a dumb power. But other than just
he would
being
be like an Omega level mutant if
Right.
if he was a mutant.
Right.
It's like you can't calculate the effects of that ability.
Yes. Yes, that's the definition of a mega level mutant, is there's no limit to the ability, and that's kind of what he is. That's one of the reasons we were talking about how the Inhumans, their power sets are just kind of dumb, because there's like one of them breathes underwater, One of them controls the elements-ish. One of them has living hair. One of them can find all weaknesses in anything, even concepts.
Yeah.
And one
He'd
of
be
them...
a great proofreader.
Right. And one of them can destabilize the fabric of the universe with the speech center of his brain. And you're just like, what is
All right.
this?
So, just to back up, just so we're all aware, you said all of them have these powers, and then one of them has hair that's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's like the most insulting
that's a power?
thing ever.
Is it just the hair on her head, or is it like?
Mm?
I mean,
does the giant
Ugh.
carpet match the ridiculous drapes? We
good
don't know.
Lord, help us all.
Every outfit she's ever worn is pretty skin tight on the crotch, and we've never seen not a pube one. So I'm guessing
You've never got punched out by her crotch area,
or perhaps
crotchial zone?
perhaps all of her like biological faculties are meant to put building hair, so she's completely hairless all other places. The fact that she has eyebrows maybe takes mental effort. I mean, I don't know.
Wow, this is really going downhill.
It's still, it's still just living hair.
Well, to be
I
fair, it's also
think-
super strong, super durable, like nearly indestructible hair. That's another thing it is.
Oh well, now that you said
Yeah,
that, I think I'm still not impressed. Oh Lord, that was not written by like Jack and the original writers. Jack Kirby.
The problem with the Inhumans is they're written as these very like foreign, standoffish, secretive characters, and so you don't know anything about the people. You just know their powers and their motivations, and so it's like Batman. It's like name something about Bruce Wayne that does not involve Batman. Go. And you're like, well, he's rich. Okay, thanks. Like, name something about his personality, and they're like, well, he's Batman. Like, that's not a personality trait. It's like, he's brooding. Like, okay. Like, you can't relate to him as a person. Like, the people that like the Inhumans and like Batman, they like the concept of them. They don't like the person or the character. They like the plot points they create and, like, the situations that they resolve, but they don't like them as a person.
This is one of the reasons
hard to empathize with.
This is one of the reasons why I'm.
It's just Batman is just really popular still somehow.
This is also one of the reasons why I'm sure we're going to get the Eternals like very soon. I'm sure everything that has Marvels is going to get the Eternals very soon because we know that movie's coming up, and it's another group that I'm like, why are you making a movie about this group? Like, why are you focusing on these guys? The other day I actually looked at the cast roster to see who was playing who, and I didn't know any of the characters' names that these people were playing except Thena. Because Thena shows up in a lot of Marvel stories. Like, she was a main character, she was an Avenger for a while. Like, Thena is a big deal. But like, none of the others I had ever heard of before. So
yeah, but that's not a big deal. Like, they don't have to make characters people know. If they are able to tell good stories and make them compelling, then they'll become popular, right? It's like kind of like the Guardians. Like, Guardians were like secret, like cult following stuff. Like, there were people that liked the Guardians. They were just super underground until like they got the animated stuff that they were in like 10 years ago, and then they were in obviously the live action movies. And now Guardians are massively popular, and a lot of people think that they're more popular than like the Avengers at this point with like kids and stuff. So it's all about like, can you make it a thing? It doesn't need to already be one.
No, I agree. Guardians is a really good example of that for sure.
Yeah. It's like nobody that wasn't like a diehard Marvel fan already went out looking like, when's the Guardians movie coming? Like, nobody was asking that question. And even when they announced it, they were like, what? And they're like, well, let's look up with these guys. Like, oh, there's a tree boy and a rocket, like, or like a trash panda guy. And you're like, what's the point of these characters? And immediately, no one gave a shit.
I will actually say this. The general public, sure. But when somebody told me there was going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I was excited because I knew what the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Like, I was like, this is going to be fun. I have invested part of my life into this mythos, and there is something here. If they do this right, it's going to be really entertaining. Because that's what the Guardians were. They were always a very entertaining, kind of a pulpy kind of rag. And
right.
And I'm saying that the Eternals are not that. I don't give a shit about them in the Marvel Universe. and they're going to have to work doubly hard to get me to even recognize their first names, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. You can absolutely make a non-existent IP more of an IP. That's totally fine, and I believe in trying new things. What I think is weird is that in the Marvel universe, they pick the Inhumans, they pick the Eternals. That's the part that I don't understand, because there are so many other IPs in the Marvel universe that are more recognizable, that I think have richer foundations. Maybe they're just trying to tap into markets and things, but I don't know.
They're trying to get out of one person being in the movies for 40 years. Like, they're trying to move away from like 5 characters carrying the entire franchise.
I get that.
Also, like, look at it from the perspective of an outsider, right? Like, the number of people that are fans of the Guardians prior to the movies, right? That percentage of the population is basically irrelevant to the size of the people that are Eternals fans. Like, that number of people is so infinitesimally small compared to the general public that it doesn't matter to, like, the people making the decisions at Disney, right? The board members at Disney, I don't think, care about the difference of, like, well, 0.8% of the US population like Guardians and 0.01% of the population likes the Eternals. Like, those numbers are irrelevant to those people. Like, they already know that no one likes it. But it's something they own, and if they can turn it into a profitable source, they're going to, I think. And so all that matters to them is, can we make a profitable franchise out of it?
Right. And that's why I, from a profit standpoint, I don't think the Eternals and the Inhumans make a logical choice, because the Eternals comic book has never launched off the shelves, right? Nobody's been excited about that mythos. The same thing's true for the Inhumans. The reason why you reuse old IPs is because you can use other mediums as a test bed for the likelihood of the success of a character. And we know that different mediums don't always translate. Daredevil. So, like, we know that it's possible that you could switch mediums, totally mishandle it, and drop the ball hard, right? So, I'm not saying that it's
I don't think
guarantee.
that actually matters at all.
No,
I don't see how that really plays into
it absolutely does. There's no way you can't say that a board of directors wouldn't want to put dollars more into something that has already proven to be profitable. Like, there's no way. But it's not
a question of, like, where you put your resources. The resources are non-existent to Disney. Like, Disney doesn't care how much it costs to make one movie. If the MCU is making them money, they have effectively infinite amount of money to reinvest. And so they're not going to make a franchise out of the possible Disney options. They're going to make the Disney options into franchises. Like, it's all going to happen, I think. I don't think it's a question of which ones they're choosing. It's which ones were easiest to do now, and who could they find people to make them now. Like, maybe they just found a director and a screenwriter that wanted to do the Eternals.
I will buy that Disney, because Disney as a whole cares very much about the creative minds governing their products. So, like, they care, they believe very strongly that you can't just use the bottom line, because they tried that in the 90s and it almost wrecked them, right? Their entertainment business was almost kaput. And so they did a 180 after they learned lessons from one of their subsidiaries, Pixar. They did a total 180, and now they're all about their creative team being fantastic. So it's possible that somebody, like you said, somebody important looked at whatever was being created for the Eternals and said, this is a movie, this is a money-making engine that we can sink money into. We'll get our return on investment. We don't need this to be a popular IP already, because this screenwriter, like you said, this director, this co-writer, all these people are coming together, and it's going to be a strong product. And that's so I believe that that's most likely what happened to the Eternals or the Inhumans, like with the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, that they decided this was a good idea because somebody in a creative, in one of the highest levels of the creative design teams were interested in pursuing this. But it's still, I still don't give a shit about the Inhumans or the Eternals. So you're gonna have to get me to see it because it's a good movie, not because I care about these characters already. And that's more.
Okay,
it's harder.
so hold on. We're still in COVID. So if tomorrow Eternals dropped on Disney Plus, you wouldn't watch it?
Maybe not.
Really?
I really give two,
I do not believe you.
I really give two shits about that universe part, or that part of the universe. I
literally don't believe that you would watch it.
I haven't
watched Alita Battle Ladle in theaters.
Let me. I did do that.
Oh no! Oh no!
I wanted to do that, and I don't regret it. It was a horrible movie, but I don't.
Oh, you regret it?
I actually, I'm going to say something. Here's a bit of a mind blower. I have not seen the last Spider-Man movie. I haven't seen it, and it's because I felt like I had seen enough Spider-Man movies. Every time I have the opportunity to do so, actually, I don't even think that's on Disney Plus yet. I don't think it's anywhere free. I have to buy it, I think. But
I don't think it is.
Yeah, and when it becomes free, I will likely, find a moment to watch it. But what's the best way to put it? Marvel movies have to be extraordinarily different for me to enjoy them right now. They've achieved a formula that now is to me a little too predictable. They're not weak movies at all, but they are formulaic, and so I enjoyed the formula the first 5 times, and I'm beginning to. I'm just not excited. I don't draw to it. I'm not pumped about it. I don't think I'll watch the Spider-Man movie and leave that movie feeling like, oh man, I'm so glad I got that cinematic experience. I'll be like, okay, that was another Marvel movie. Good formula.
I don't like the formulaic argument against a lot of stuff. Obviously, some things are far more formulaic than others, but for the most part, all of television is formulaic, in a large part. Like there's always some formula to it, and the movies that try and absolutely go away from it, like the out of chronological order movies and shit like that, it's sometimes, very rarely, they're pulled off well enough. But the whole point is that they are the exception to the rule, which is part of the drawing factor, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, sure, there's the bad guy of the week TV shows after 8 seasons get a little boring, right? When you're watching them on repeat and stuff. Obviously that's true. And most television shows are formulaic by principle. But when you get to movies, well, sure, it's got to be an overarching story in 2 hours. You have to follow some kind of formula. It's just been what else are you gonna do?
This is another weird thing. It's a small thing. I've seen pieces of the movie. I need to see the whole thing to give it a shake of the head. The movie. I'm thinking of Spider-Man: Homecoming. But Jake Gyllenhaal, for some reason, I don't give a shit. Is that weird? It's every scene with him in it, I'm like, I don't care who this bad guy is. I give no fucks.
I actually thought he was pretty good.
I need to see the whole
movie.
I need to see.
Yeah, you need to see
the whole movie.
You need to see the entire arc of his character.
Yeah, I need to see the whole movie. But
I thought they did a really good job with Mysterio.
Yeah.
It has a very Thor Ragnarok feel to it. They land. It's not quite Thor Ragnarok where it's they're literally beating you over the head with the comedy, but they do a really good job of landing the comedy. Just a lot like the first Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Ever since they realized that was their new plan, they'd been doing a really good job of the comedy. Basically after Thor 2, they figured out that they don't need to write for kids. And so they started writing for adults, and the comedy has been much better.
I think
pretty much.
Go
ahead.
I'm excited.
I was just gonna say, pretty much, Robert Downey Jr. Sassing with anybody is hilarious. It's been really good.
I really enjoy. The ones that stick out, the Marvel movies that stick out, are the ones that divorce from the formula a little bit. The Winter Soldier was more of a spy suspense thriller than anything else, so they leaned really heavy into that, which I thought it was great. Part of that formula, but I love that it wasn't the other formula, right? I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Thor Ragnarok both leaned heavily into this goofy cosmic adventure, kind of Flash Gordon style, making fun of itself thing, which I think is also really fun. There are some parts of the MCU that I think pop out as one of these things is not like the other one, and you can kind of point to it, and those are the ones that really stick out in my mind. All the others just kind of bleed together, except for Iron Man 3, which was just a fucking dumpster fire.
That was definitely the weakest one of the true MCU movies.
Yeah. I would watch. Nope. I was about to say something out loud, and I take it back.
You were going to say X-Men Apocalypse, weren't you?
Nope. Nope. Actually, X-Men, is that the one that introduces Quicksilver? No. Okay.
That's Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. I actually enjoyed Days of Future Past.
That was great. There's a bunch of good X-Men
I actually just
movies.
rewatched I just rewatched all the earlier era ones, so the prequels or whatever.
The
you wanna call
legacies.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, is that what they're called?
Yeah, they're called legacy,
legacy
ones or something
movies?
like that. Yeah.
Well, actually,
Uh-huh.
I watched everything but X2 and X3 basically, and
X2
they
holds up
actually
good.
all like Apocalypse is real bad at parts, but a lot of it was actually really good. Like Psylocke was pretty much spot on, I thought. Angel was done surprisingly well for how much I hate Angel.
Mm.
And so, like, they hit so many things exactly right. Literally, the only problem with that movie is everything involving Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, his character is bad. His powers are obviously just inverted. Like, instead of having control over his own body, he has control over everything that isn't his body. It makes no sense. Like, it's like they just it was like they Doctor Doomed the shit out of Apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Like, they just fucked up his origin story and his character. Like, his origin story is actually probably okay, but... And then, so those parts were terrible. Everything else about it was fine. Like, the future stuff with, like, Blink and Bishop was all cool. Like, the Kitty Pryde time-traveling thing confused me, but I don't know if she can actually do that.
The original Days of Future Past, it was something like that. It was time traveling, but it wasn't Kitty Pryde. I forget
It's Wolverine.
how they... Was that?
Wolverine went back in time. That was the deal with
Right.
that one.
Yeah, but they used Kitty Pryde to send Wolverine back in time.
Oh,
which is
yeah,
what
yeah.
didn't make sense. She phases him through time instead of matter. And I was like, that doesn't sound like the same thing at all. Like, that sounds like two very different powers.
Yeah, I really...
Oh, apparently in the deleted scenes, there's the buddy cop mini movie of when Wolverine cuts Kitty Pryde. She starts to bleed out, and so they think she's not going to make it. So Magneto and Professor X go on a buddy cop raid to raid one of the prison camps and break Rogue out. Then they use Rogue to steal Kitty's powers and keep the time travel loop happening. And I was like, what? Like when has that ever worked?
Yeah.
And so apparently got cut, but the scene is in the deleted scenes, which is apparently pretty funny. Because, you know, Magneto and Xavier doing stuff together is always fun.
Hmm.
Because, like, what do? You're like, you lose. That's what happens. Like, you can't fight them both.
I really like Days of Future Past. The Quicksilver scene by itself. As soon as I saw that, I was like, this is just absolutely wonderful. I love this movie. It's so much fun.
Well, his name is like Michael Fassbender, right? The guy who plays Magneto.
Magneto, yes. That's
Magneto.
Michael
Yeah.
Fassbender.
Like any movie, add him into it, and it becomes good.
Yeah, better.
Like-
Better movie.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
It turns out when you Photoshop him into Citizen Kane, still good.
Yeah. I get him and John Hamm confused a lot. They are very similar, like,
Oh, yeah.
human
I can
people.
see that.
However, John Hamm is 100% a different person. He's like a kind of a
Yes.
comedy actor, or like he does drama, but he is a goofy ass guy, and so anything with John Hamm or Michael Fassbender, I don't care that I can't confuse them because I'm instantly pleased that they've arrived.
Yes.
The ones that always get me are Thomas Jane and Aaron Eckert, I think is the other guy's name. The guy from Dark
Yeah.
Knight and
Yes.
then the guy who played the Punisher.
Yes.
I didn't know they were different people
Uh-huh.
until they were literally in the same movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, there's two of them. And I was like, oh no, I've just been wrong about who I've been going to see movies.
If you want to see John Hamm being just goofy as hell, have you ever seen The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Have you watched that show?
I have, actually.
Is
Is that when he plays one of the...
he's
Never mind, go ahead.
he's the Reverend. He's the person who kidnaps Kimmy and put him in the...
Yes.
When he's in the courtroom and he's giving his own defense, and he says, "Let me tell you a little story from a pal I know named Jesus." And he gets the guitar out and goes, "He was a one-armed, one-legged, flying purple people eater." And you're like, what?
Oh my god.
That scene, that like everything he says in that courtroom, I cry laughing. He is so good at that just super serious, goofy character. Oh man, oh it's so funny.
My favorite thing from Kimmy Schmidt was when the lady she works for, the blonde chick, starts dating a Hemsworth brother. and his name's like David Hemsworth, and he's like only very good looking and wealthy and attractive and skilled, but he has this giant inferiority complex because his brothers are so successful and handsome and rich, and so he doesn't tell them he's a Hemsworth brother, and so they go to his mansion and they're like, "You're rich?" He's like, "No, I do okay," and it's like this $10 million place. So he's throwing a dinner party, everybody's in tuxes. Like, "No, you're rich." Like they're very confused how they didn't know that her boyfriend was rich. And then he's like, "Well, I don't like to talk about it." And then they eventually beat it out of him, and he's basically in tears. Like, yeah, they're not even mean. It just feels like they're mean because they're so successful. Like, it's so funny. It's like basically his life is in ruins because he's only very good looking and rich. It's like, oh my god, it fucking makes me laugh every time.
That's good.
He's literally like breaking down in tears in front of his girlfriend and her friends because they found out he's related to Chris Hemsworth.
All right, we did a good job warming up. We did a good job. I want to
first world problems, right?
Yeah, let's start rolling on this 40-minute episode, whatever we got here.
No, we're done. That was it. That was the episode.
All right, I've been podcasting this whole time.
Got in one, guys. All right. So obviously we have the news. Parker will take us through the news. Just remember to pause in between each thing so we can discuss.
Okay.
Then we'll go into our main topic, which if you guys want to brainstorm some stuff to talk about, and then we'll do the comic corner.
We could talk about because you've been playing a lot of different lists. What's your favorite list right now? We could also talk about favorite crises that we've played. Like, what's the kind of go-tos that we're playing?
Well, I was going to say I can drop in another topic here if you guys want to do a secondary topic. We can do an over and under for characters.
How do we do those? I don't remember exactly what were we doing with that?
It is you just pick what you think is your favorite overrated character and your favorite underrated characters. Like character that you think makes too many lists and like shouldn't be played as much, and it's just like people are crutching on it because they don't know how to not, and then like characters that you think should make lists basically and don't.
Gotcha.
Underrated and overrated, one of the category, and we each do our own. It's okay to duplicate. Oh, and we have from the forums today.
Oh yeah, we got to do that. We need to make fun of some real people, real listeners.
Oh, I really wanted to do that and just be like, look how stupid this person
I know.
is. But like, I have a very dark sense of humor, and I think some of our listeners, one might be the forum posters, and two would not think it's as funny as I do. So I've had people talk me off that ledge, but I think it's hilarious to find stuff on the internet and make fun of it. I do not try to make fun of people's paint jobs to their face. I make fun of their paint jobs to Parker's face later. And, but mostly I only make fun of people that are dumb and use like glitter paint and stuff. Like I just hate that so much.
You actually do a really good job. You do a really good job of being very neutral with your ire, because I know inside you're seething. You're rolling around like a crocodile with a carcass. But but I know that's
the
what
old
you are
witch
inside.
that's convincing the kids to rub butter on themselves and then climb into the oven. Like,
it's
like, but they don't know it.
Yeah, you do a really good job. I've been with you at conventions when you've just been like, yep,
yeah, good job, man.
That's painting.
Yeah, looks nice.
And the
3 steps later, that fucking idiot.
And you understand that it was effort and they cared about it, and it's better than it's glad that you're happy that they're proud of it. But man,
in a pragmatic way, it's the best possible situation because they're enjoying their paint job because they got a model that's painted and they enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying their paint job because I get to ridicule it endlessly once they're not in my presence. And so I think it's the best because everyone gets maximum enjoyment out of the entire process. Uh-huh. And then, obviously at some point they will progress in their painting skills just as everybody does. Like, I don't paint the best, but, I think it's fine if people make fun of my painting. Like, it's good for me, so. But I'm just a bad person, so that's how it works. I don't deny any of the things that are wrong with me.
That's a funny statement. I like that.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
so instead from the forums is productive, where it's like, hey, did you know this rules interaction that was clarified? You probably should. And so that's what we're doing with From the Forums. And then maybe we'll do a From the Forums After Dark, where it's a little more
a little more sexy.
razor sharp and bloody.
After dark.
Maybe stay to the end for From the Forums. We tried to do a 31st Century podcast
Oh God.
back in the day. We only did 2 episodes, but and I was not the organizer of that. That was completely separate. I think I was only on one of them as a guest. But it was, if you were ever at 31st Century, it was a weird combination of like a frat house and a brothel and a 7-Eleven. It was some weird combination of those 3 things. And it was the worst parts of it. Like, everything was always sticky and dirty like a 7-Eleven. And then, like, there was, like, for example, the place didn't have heat, right? And it didn't have heat because the owner refused to pay a gas bill. Not like an overdue gas bill that he disputed. He just didn't want to pay for gas. And so he just didn't have heat. So if you're not from Kansas, you might think Kansas, it's middle of the country, it's fairly temperate. You'd be wrong. We get into the negatives sometimes, and in the winter it is commonly sub 10 degrees.
Yep.
I don't know if you would leave an 8-year-old unattended child in an 8-degree building, but let me tell you, the police did not think you should.
Oh my God.
It was a whole thing, yeah. At one point, because so many people complained that it was cold, that they said they were going to stop coming to Friday Night Magic, which meant, the owner would lose $3 per person. So he went out and bought a space heater on Craigslist and plugged it in the middle of the room and just turned it on high in the morning. And then by the evening, it was 11 degrees. So, that basically fixed the problem.
Yeah. Clapped his hands
Until
together.
one of the
called it
Magic
good.
players... Yeah, until one of the Magic players backed up his chair and knocked the space heater over, and it blew the fuse out in it. And so, like you do, he went to college for engineering, so he opened the thing up, saw that the fuse was burned out, and said, why am I driving to the fucking hardware store that's like an entire quarter mile away? And so he just took 2 pennies and shoved them in the fuse slot and fucking screwed the thing back up. And
Oh my God.
apparently, there was a small problem with that because it messed with the circuitry in it somehow. You couldn't turn it off. It was just always on high. If it was plugged in, it was on high. There was no in between. And so it would just run overnight at max settings for weeks at a time.
Oh my
Which
God.
is, I've been told, a fire hazard by
Yeah.
a fire marshal
A bit.
who was looking at it. Is like, that's a fire hazard. I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? The owner's out of town.
Hmm.
Oh, man.
You've definitely
there's so many
described
stories.
the entire place perfectly.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is the place that made a podcast. And we had 2 podcast ideas. There was the 31st Century podcast, and then a week later he bought video camera surveillance for the store that had microphones. And so we said, well, we'll just do a podcast called 31st Century After Dark, where we just take our favorite clips from the week that people don't know is being recorded and
Oh
put
my
it on
God.
the internet.
Oh shit.
Which was going to be rated like, I don't know, like go kill yourself, I think. Like, I don't know how that even works. Oh man, that was an interesting time. Oh boy.
You would just
An
see people
interesting
stealing.
time.
You would just see people stealing magic cards over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
the amount of times you would walk to the bathroom, because there was like these short, like chest height bookshelves that circled the place. So there was the shelving on the wall, and then directly 5 feet behind you, there'd be short shelving that there was more bookshelves for that you could put stuff in, and then you put stuff on top of it. And so the bathroom is in the corner at the end of one of these aisles. And so on the way back there, you could just almost always look to your right and see a torn open, like, sealed magic product sitting on the shelf that was somehow mysteriously missing the contents, like, every day.
Wow.
It was like, hey, Joe, do you actually sell any of these starter decks? He's like, I don't think I've sold one. It's like, where are they? It's like, I haven't seen them in a while. Like, yeah, I wonder where they went. There's probably just a pile of wrappers in the bathroom. Oh man, we should just do a 31st century like stories from the store podcast. Oh man, just for the record, this place has recently closed. So, all right, let's get into it. Are you guys ready?